Please like and share the video, and follow the YouTube channel Cultivation Audiobooks, and leave a comment with the novel you want to hear. I will upload it soon based on your request. Chapter 1386. The two of them faced each other. They stood still. Deity Templars Supreme Tian Yu's expression was calm, but Yue Yang's eyes were burning with rage. Yue Yang needed rage to fight, and the angrier he was, the more power he could unleash. It was unimaginable in a berserk state. The reason why he made such a long speech earlier was to stimulate his own fighting spirit. The more arrogant the enemy was, the more he could ignite his own fighting spirit, and the more he could unleash his own power. Roar, 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 Yue Yang shouted. Nirvana flame turned into armor on his body, and his fire wings extended to both sides. Imprisonment Shrine. Tian Yu raised his right hand slightly. A speck of golden light appeared in his palm. It transformed into a divine hall and enveloped the sky above the dueling battlefield. The shrine grew larger and larger, and finally, it materialized on the ground of the Libra world. At first glance, this was the ruins of a divine temple. It was unknown how many battles it had been through to become this dilapidated. However, its divine power and law were still there. Moreover, it did not weaken because of its appearance. On the contrary, its law was getting stronger and stronger. It was so strong that even the demonic dragon, Subtraction Life, and the others who were lying on the edge of the divine mountain could feel its power. Shui Wuxia and Princess Sissy, who were inside the crystal wall, quickly retreated, afraid that if they were not careful, the enemy would find an opportunity. Illusion Moon Goddess also rushed over to protect them. She looked at Freedom Sky, Joy Sky and Ultimate Sky cautiously. Under the amplification of the shrine's law, their fighting strength increased. She had no choice but to leave Yue Yang. She rushed back to protect them. Yue Yang opened his hands, and looked at them in shock. He realized that his rage was decreasing bit by bit, and when he regained his rationality, the rage in his heart seemed to be restrained by some sort of law, and could not explode no matter how hard he tried. I've heard of you, Titan Yu, especially Dong Fang, who made the most accurate judgment about you. He said that you're good at reversing events because you have a terrifying power in your body, a power that you're not good at or even know how to use. Once you lose your rationality and become violent, that power will automatically take over your body, allowing you to reverse life and death at the most dangerous moment. The deity's Templar's supreme martial artist Tian Yu calmly looked at Yue Yang and said, "Although your strength is below mine, I do not wish for any accidents to occur, nor do I wish for any unforeseen events to occur in this destined battle." Yue Yang was speechless. Damn it, she didn't even give him a chance to get angry, right? You may begin. Sovereign Heavencharger of the deity's Templar made a gesture of invitation. Yue Yang braced himself and charged towards Tian Yu. When his fist landed heavily on the enemy's face, Li Tianlin's eyes widened. At the same time, he discovered that there was a power that struck back at his face, and it was not the deity's Templar's supreme martial artist Tian Yu's attack. Yue Yang staggered 3 steps back, and discovered that the 4 gods' armor worn by Tian Yu, which was the current Imperial Sky Divine armor, contained an unbreakable, backlash power, and its godly power allowed Yue Yang's attack to be returned 100%. Tian Yu didn't even blink. He touched his cheek and shook his head, saying, "Your speed is too slow. And your strength is too weak. Without the violent power, you can't even exert 1/10 of your strength." As soon as he finished speaking, Yue Yang had already launched a flying kick, and a crescent moon-like upside-down kick landed on Tian Yu's chest. The final blow landed on Tian Yu's chin. Not waiting for Tian Yu to react, Yue Yang had already used the force to fly far away, and retreated far away. The star explosion shot out the moment it retreated. Behind the glittering cover, the blood arrow, which simulated the supreme martial artist's sword style of life, was drawn to the limit in the nirvana bow that Yue Yang had conjured, and shot towards the deity's Templar's supreme martial artist Tian Yu's forehead. Capture. Tian Yu stretched out his right hand, and firmly grasped the star explosion that Yue Yang had unleashed in the palm of his hand, and the blood arrow that shot towards him was caught by his left hand. The terrifyingly powerful star explosion was directly crushed by Tian Yu's grip, and stardust scattered in all directions. The blood arrow, it made him take a second look. Tian Yu casually threw away the blood arrow, and casually stretched out his foot. With a heavy stomp, he extinguished the ultimate godly flames that were extremely condensed together. Other than the eternal and inextinguishable nirvana flame, all the flames that Yue Yang had comprehended in his life were easily extinguished by Tian Yu. Tian Yu stepped over the blood arrow that was greatly weakened, but still slightly burned by the nirvana flame. His gaze was calm as ever as he looked at Yue Yang, as if waiting for him to launch more attacks. How are we supposed to fight like this? Mo Long covered his face, not daring to look. The difference in strength was too great. If Tian Yu fought with Yue Yang, it would be like bullying a noob. Quickly think of a way, reduce the lives person, and Kai Danzi also felt that it was hopeless. Just relying on Titan Yu alone would be enough to kill Tian Yu in minutes. Their only hope now was to find an old ghost like the Honorable Guardian of Light. It would be best if it was the kind of old guy that hadn't appeared for hundreds of thousands of years in Tong Tian Tower. Even if he couldn't personally suppress Tian Yu, he could at least send tens of thousands of meters of godly power to Titan Yu. Now, Titan Yu's 10,000-meter godly body was even more miserable than before under the suppression of Tian Yu's 50,000-meter godly body. At least the Honorable Guardian of Light was crippled by Emperor Wu Shuang. Tian Yu had gone all out, and he had even received the inheritance of the Honorable Guardian of Light's power. Without any external help, they knew that they would definitely lose this battle. There should be someone behind Titan Yu, right? Reduce the lives person felt that this didn't make sense. Tian Yu had so many powerful people supporting him, so how could Titan Yu be alone? There should be a lot of people supporting him from behind. Moreover, didn't Tong Tian Tower produce many powerful people in the past? Why not lend a hand now? There didn't need to be many, nor did they need to be high. Anyone that was slightly taller than the Honorable Guardian of Light would do. Emperor Wu Shuang, Peerless, can be counted as one, but he's dead. Fei Wenli can also be counted as one, but she can't come, so she's probably not much better right now. Counting down, it's my turn. Mo Long's tone was like a widow who had lost her only child. Then it's over. Reduce the lives person and Kai Danzi felt bitter in their mouths. In the center of the imprisonment shrine, the rational and clear-headed Yue Yang clenched his teeth, summoned his greatest strength, and punched the enemy. This time, Tian Yu didn't stand still. He reached out and grabbed Yue Yang's fist. With a slight tilt of his body, Yue Yang's whole body was lifted up and thrown out involuntarily. Then, he heavily smashed into the ground of the imprisonment shrine. The strong cornerstone of the shrine burst under this kind of impact. Yue Yang took the opportunity to bounce up, but his lower abdomen had already been kicked by Tian Yu. Faster than a meteor, Yue Yang shot back into the sky at high speed. Yue Yang tried his best to control his body. It was too late to stop. Tian Yu's 50,000-meter tall divine body was as flexible as his own fist. He punched down like lightning, hitting Yue Yang in midair. Yue Yang's body fell to the ground at a speed 100 times faster than before. Yue Yang resisted the pain of his broken bones and supported himself with his limbs to resist the mountain-crushing blow of the 50,000-meter tall divine body. Too slow. The tip of Tian Yu's foot just happened to kick Yue Yang's chin, sending him tumbling. When Yue Yang tumbled in midair, Tian Yu reached out and grabbed his ankle, swung him in a semicircle, and smashed him again in front of him. Yue Yang slid on the ground for a long time, more slippery than a loach. His body shot back half a foot on the ground until it was 10,000 meters away, then slowly straightened his waist and returned to his fighting posture. In front of him, Tian Yu's shadow flashed and disappeared from Yue Yang's eyes. The enemy that his divine sense had locked onto had inexplicably disappeared. A thought flashed in Yue Yang's mind. He looked back in surprise and found Tian Yu was already standing behind him. The supreme elder of the deity palace, Tian Yu, stretched out his hand and pressed Yue Yang's neck against the ground. Just like a bull plowing the land, he forcefully plowed a deep pit on the steel-like ground of the deity palace, returning to Yue Yang's original position of attack. He let go. Standing in front of Yue Yang, he looked down at him expressionlessly. Because of the pain and humiliation, Yue Yang's heart burned with fury again. His combat strength increased crazily. His eyes were blood red, and his divine power erupted like a volcano. Confine. Supreme Tian Yu waved his hand, and the power of laws once again deprived this almost crazy anger. The divine fire on Yue Yang's body kept disappearing. His blood-red eyes quickly faded, and he regained his clarity and rationality. The boiling power gradually quieted down under the ebbing tide of anger, and continued to lurk. What do you want? Yue Yang was very angry, but he couldn't get angry. It's just a small test. Supreme Tian Yu nodded calmly. Dongfang is right. As long as I use the laws to suppress the power of your anger, you are destined to lose this fated battle. Titan Yu, do you know why I didn't attack your family or lover? It's very simple. I only need a complete loser. I don't want to see a normal and rational opponent go crazy because of the death of his family or lover. He loses control and explodes the dormant power that he originally couldn't use. Are you implying that we should commit suicide in front of him? Shui Wuxia suddenly smiled. I didn't understand before, but now I kind of understand what you mean. You aren't jealous of everything Yue Yang has, and plan to use a scheme to destroy everything he has before winning, right? If you understand the true meaning of sacrifice, you might make the most reasonable choice. Tian Yu didn't admit it, but he didn't deny it either. We won't commit suicide and sacrifice ourselves to incite his anger. Princess Sissy refused flatly. Why? Tian Yu asked. Aren't you willing to sacrifice everything for him? We aren't stupid. We won't sacrifice ourselves. For the sake of our enemy. Shui Wuxia slowly shook her head. Tian Yu, I understand what you're thinking. For this fated battle, you willingly were forced to give up everything you once had, using it to cut off the shackles of the world. You did this, but your opponent didn't. So, you felt that you had to drag him to the same tragic level. You could have defeated him with a raise of your hand, but you didn't. You just set up a battle like the shackled shrine to restrict his anger. You purposely let us see all of this. Through various hints, you want us women to commit suicide for love, to sacrifice selflessly for love, to use death and blood to awaken our lovers, right? Although it's not completely correct, it's close. Tian Yu's expression was calm. If all of you die in front of him, I think it might be of some help to this fated battle. In the future, when I defeat Titan Yu and ascend to the Holy Supreme, I can at least remember that I defeated an expert, not a rookie. I'll do it, Mo Long suddenly shouted heroically. If blood and death are needed to awaken his anger, then let me, the boss, sacrifice myself. What Mo Long meant was that as a boss, he felt ashamed that he couldn't help his underlings in battle. Now, blood and death were needed to awaken his anger. As the boss, he naturally had to step forward. Reduced Commoner's Life and Kai Danzi looked at Mo Long in shock. No way, you're so enthusiastic about suicide. This isn't treating us to a meal, okay. Yue Yang was also speechless. He advised Mo Long, don't add to the mess. Not to mention that you can't commit suicide, even if you hang yourself 10,000 times, I won't feel the slightest bit sad. I'll only feel that there's one less scourge in the world. Hearing this, Mo Long was furious. His lungs almost exploded on the spot. You bastard, even if it's true, you don't have to say it out loud, right? Words like that are very hurtful. I wanted to do a good deed out of kindness, but you don't appreciate it at all. You're not giving me face at all. Yue Yang was completely speechless. You mean I shouldn't stop you from dying? Mo Long angrily snorted. It's too late. Now I suddenly don't want to die for you. My good intentions were treated as a dog's lungs. You hurt me too much. Chapter 1387. On the battlefield of Tianping World, the supreme Tian Yu of the temple was indeed extraordinary, beating the guy from another world with one move. The suppression of the 50,000-meter divine body, divine weapons, divine power, domain, and law were all destroyed. Yue Yang could only struggle to hold on. He knew that Tian Yu was still probing and did not go all out. The supreme Tian Yu of the temple had always suspected that there was a higher level of protection behind Yue Yang. He was not sure if this possibility would interfere and affect his fate duel, so he held back a little. If Tian Yu was completely sure that there was no possibility of any external interference in the fate duel, then it was time for him to go all out and unleash a fatal blow. Bang bang bang, fists fell like rain. Other than clenching his teeth and persevering in the battle, Yue Yang had no second choice. There was no way out in the fate duel. This was not the most troublesome thing. The most troublesome thing was that there was not much time left for him. Yue Yang had to defeat Tian Yu within a few hours. If he could not win quickly, Tong Tian Tower would suffer a great disaster because of Dong Feng's previous arrangement. The shock wave of destruction would destroy everything in Tong Tian Tower, and Tong Tian Tower would truly sink. The only hope now was Yue Yang's victory. Not only did he need to defeat Tian Yu as the weak, but he also had to control the time before the final countdown. There are only 5 hours left. Yue Yang understood how slim the chances of him turning the tables were, but he really did not have the right to give up. Tian Yu would not be so merciful to give him such a chance. There are 5 hours left. Hold on, we can do it. Another battlefield. Fatty Hai's head was swollen like a pig's head after being beaten by the enemy, and his eyelids could not open at all. He stood up dizzily. muttering to himself and staggering like a drunkard, but he still insisted on fighting, even if he could not even beat a finger of his opponent. Not only him, but Yi Kong and the Li brothers also climbed up from the pool of blood. Shui Tan Lang's whole body was burning with flames, roasting his skin and flesh with a sizzling sound. That was an extremely special kind of divine fire, specialized in restraining ice attribute. Shui Tan Lang could not even display 1% of his strength under the burning of the divine fire. Gurgurgur, Prince of Tian Luo's teeth were chattering. His body was covered with a layer of frost and the air he breathed was even colder than the polar storm. Just like Shui Tan Lang, he was also completely suppressed. Under the effects of the extreme cold divine power, Prince of Tian Luo was only slightly better off than a bystander. We've lost. We can't win this battle no matter what. Supreme Jin, the master of the Valley of Tang, who was watching from the sidelines, really wanted to step forward and lend a hand. I didn't expect the Scarlet Warden, Tantai Tumi, to hide his strength so well. We always thought that he was just a quasi-divine level expert. Who knew that his true strength was far beyond our imagination? The Demon Emperor sighed. Among the Light Clan, the Scarlet Warden, Tantai Tumi, had not taken any action. He kept a very low profile. The martial arts practitioners of the three sky-reaching clans had almost forgotten about him. Who would have thought that when Dong Feng passed away and the space-time labyrinth was completely destroyed, he would appear when everyone thought that everything was settled. Coincidentally, this was the beginning of the counterattack led by the Heavenly Chariot. Divine palaces, divine corridors, and various spiritual platforms replaced the original space-time labyrinth and were laid under the feet of the martial arts practitioners of the three sky-reaching clans. A divine power that far surpassed Dong Feng's chess world appeared on the battlefield according to the will of the Heavenly Chariot. It endlessly boosted the combat power of their side. The martial arts practitioners of the Heavenly Chariot, who had almost broken through the labyrinth, fell into traps of various attributes and restrictions. Of course, even without the will of the Divine Temple's Supreme Heavenly Chariot and the suppression of his divine power. Tantai Tumi was the only one. He was enough to defeat the entire sky-reaching coalition army. Even if Supreme Jin and the others, who were forced to watch from the sidelines due to the restrictions of the law, were not necessarily a match for this powerful warden. What a terrifying man! The two-headed dragon Yue Yang and the others were so scared that they almost peed their pants. They had thought that Tantai Tumi's strength was similar to theirs, or even below theirs. In the past, whenever they had some conflicts in the upper heaven realm, he would often send people or write letters to negotiate with this warden. Sometimes, his words were very rude. Really, why doesn't anyone punch me? The arrogant man felt itchy all over. He really wanted to go down and fight. But the law did not allow it. He could not participate in the battle. He could only watch the others fight. If someone punched him hard now, he might be grateful to that person for the rest of his life. The Scarlet Warden, Tantai Tumi's only loyalty was to the Heavenly Chariot. His actions also carried out the will of the Supreme Heavenly Chariot of the Divine Temple in this world. Previously, when he was planning in the East, he did not care about winning or losing. No matter how the situation on the battlefield changed, he just waited quietly. It was only when the Heavenly Chariot entered the balanced scale world that he stepped forward and led his subordinates to launch an all-out counterattack. In order to hide himself, he had always placed his position below the three hall masters. Everything to the outside world was carried out by the heavenly demons and heavenly ghosts under his command. This also gave the outside world a serious misconception that his strength was below the three hall masters. Who could imagine that this man who looked like the shadow of the Heavenly Chariot? Was he a super powerful god-level expert? Tantai Tumi, who was hiding in the back, was content with being ordinary for 10,000 years. It was only when the fated duel began that he truly exploded his power. I'm ashamed. Supreme Jin shook his head and sighed. He looked at the Demon Emperor who liked to disguise as a nine-headed demon. The Demon Emperor smiled bitterly. I like to disguise because I'm afraid of trouble. I hate flattery and socializing. Most importantly, disguising allows me to attack my opponents better. But this old friend of mine doesn't. He's completely hiding for the sake of that Heavenly Chariot. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe that he's this powerful. My two old friends, if you're willing, you can come down and fight. Tantai Tumi could actually hear the conversation between Supreme Jin and the Demon Emperor, even if they were separated by a world. Is this also for the Heavenly Chariot? Supreme Jin laughed. Yes. Tantai Tumi did not deny it. You should know that we have no intention of starting a war with the Radiance Mountain. We have no intention of becoming enemies with the Heavenly Chariot. What does the Supreme Heavenly Chariot of the Divine Temple have to do with us if he starts the fated duel? We're not his enemies. The Demon Emperor was a little confused. He could not understand why the powerful Scarlet Warden, Tantai Tu Mie, would issue a challenge to him and Supreme Jin at such a tense moment. Lord Heavenly Chariot is participating in the Destiny Duel and his ascension is imminent. If Lord Heavenly Chariot leaves the Heaven Realm and heads to a higher realm, the Radiance Mountain will definitely attract the attention of many forces in the Heaven Realm. Don't hide your ambitions. Supreme Jin and Demon Emperor, you're bloodthirsty predators. You're not kind sheep. As the guardian of the Radiance Mountain, it's my duty as the warden to take action. I need to cleanse some of the opposing forces and silence the noise of grinding teeth. I need to make those spying in the dark withdraw their heads obediently. Tantai Tu Mie's golden mask shone with divine light. There was no expression on his face. His voice rang out coldly, as old acquaintances, as powerful god-ranked experts who are renowned in the Heaven Realm, as well as the master of the Valley of Tang, Supreme Jin and the Demon Emperor, the two of you are the best candidates to kill as a warning to the others. How heartless. Supreme Jin shook his head, so knowing each other is also a sin. I've finally understood this truth until today. Knowing each other is not a sin. However, you should feel honored to be the stepping stones of the Radiance Mountain. In Tantai Tu Mie's heart, there was no such thing as friendship. He only had one emotion, loyalty. Loyalty to the Heavenly Chariot. Loyalty to his duty. He would do anything that was beneficial to his lord. He would do anything that was within the scope of his duty. The Demon Emperor suddenly stretched lazily. Even though I don't want to participate in the war, since the butcher's knife is placed on my neck, I'll fight. As the Demon Emperor, I can't be a cowardly tortoise and wait for death under the enemy's butcher's knife, can I? Supreme Jin fell silent for a moment before he sighed gently. When Dong Fang had come looking for me, I had told him that this matter was extremely troublesome. No matter the outcome, the Golden Crow clan would face the calamity of extinction. Indeed, my premonition at that time was correct. The only thing that I don't understand was that Dong Fang had comforted me by telling me that the Golden Crow clan would be revived because of my sacrifice. I can't see any possibility of revival at all. Then he must be lying to you. The Demon Emperor was amused when he heard this. Dong Fang lied to me. Why would he lie to a fool who knows that he's going to die but still insists on moving forward? Even though he's not a good friend, he probably wouldn't lie to me. Or perhaps, he wouldn't be bothered to lie to me. The only thing that Supreme Jin could not understand was Dong Fang's reaction. The collapse of the chess world proved that the traitor of Tong Tian Tower, the wisest man of the temple, had died in battle. Why, how could a cunning fellow like Dong Fang die so easily? Even if he had died, shouldn't he have endured until the moment Tong Tian Tower fell before dying with no regrets? The Demon Emperor furrowed his brows. Just like Supreme Jin, he had thought of many things but the situation did not allow them to continue thinking. With a wave of his hand, Tantai Tu Mie, who had defeated Fatty Hai and the other Tong Tian Tower warriors once again, walked towards them. The distance between worlds was meaningless to a divine ranker like him. It was as if he had passed through a transparent door. Tantai Tu Mie walked over easily. He arrived in front of Supreme Jin and the others. The light knights and light warriors under him had already tied up the powerless Fatty Hai, Yi Kong and the others. Other than them, there were also countless Tong Tian Tower warriors who had fallen to the ground. Tantai Tu Mie waved his hand lightly and issued an order: follow the original plan. Bring these weak worms to the Libra world. The future Holy Supreme needs some sacrifices as a form of display of authority in the Heaven Realm. All of you move immediately and pass through the ancient passage. I, the Warden, will follow soon. Yes. The light warriors escorted Fatty Hai, Yi Kong and the others up the stairs between the divine palaces. They followed the guidance of the Heavenly Chariot and surged forward like a surging tide. On account of our acquaintance, I, the Warden, will allow you to commit suicide. Other than Supreme Jin and the Demon Emperor, Tantai Tu Mie did not look at anyone else. Perhaps, in his eyes, even divine-level rankers like Supreme Jin and the Demon Emperor were just slightly bigger worms. Before Supreme Jin and the Demon Emperor could make a move, Tantai Tu Mie suddenly reached out and grabbed at the sky. The void shattered and 4 shadows fell into his giant palm. They were the shadows that had been watching the battle from the other world and were preparing to escape quietly. They were Volcano, Dark Cloud, wilderness, and light. Although the other shadows did not fall into his palm, they could not help but roll on the ground due to the impact of the divine power. The steadiest, Canghai, quickly supported Yin Ping and Lu Yin with his divine power. On the other side, Lei Ming was so scared that his body was trembling slightly. They were separated by a world. This Tantai Tumi could easily capture 4 of his companions with a casual attack. What kind of divine power and realm was this? Supreme Jin and the Demon Emperor were also shocked and could not calm down for a long time. The Scarlet Warden's strength was 100 times or even 1,000 times stronger than they had imagined. If they were to fight him head-on, there was no way they could resist him. What should they do now? Fight to the death in vain, or abandon all their companions and escape with all their might? Even if they did that, was there any possibility of escaping? Everyone present was in despair. The two-headed dragon, Yue Yang, and the others were even more disheartened. They closed their eyes and waited for death. To them, struggling was a luxury. It was a completely meaningless thing. What are you doing here? At this tense moment, a voice that was as clear as spring water and as sweet as a bell rang out. Everyone turned to look and saw a girl dressed in emerald green. She was mischievously and proudly skipping towards them from afar. She smiled before saying anything and looked especially friendly. Do you know how to get to the Libra world? I accidentally got lost just now. Chapter 1388 Lost. Carelessly, everyone's attention was focused on the emerald-dressed lady. No one could understand what kind of lady she was to say such words in such a tense moment. Did she even understand that the battle was so intense that blood flowed like a river and corpses littered the ground? I think I remember her. Tantai Tu Mie frowned. He felt that this emerald-dressed lady was very familiar, as if he had seen her somewhere before. You're from the Eastern Clan, right? As the king of the Demon Clan, the Demon Emperor worshipped and longed to get close to the Eastern Clan's immortals. According to ancient legends, the ancestors of the Demon Clan were originally immortal beasts. Because they committed certain sins, they were chased out of the Eastern world and wandered to the Heaven Realm. Through their powerful strength, they forced the natives to accept their arrival. They settled in the Heaven Realm or the Heaven Realm according to their strength and tribe. They even left their footprints in the lower realms such as the Tong Tian Tower. This was the origin of the various clans of the Demon Clan. In other words, the current Demon Clan was actually the descendants of the exiled immortal beasts. However, due to intermarriage or other depravity, their bloodline gradually thinned. Each generation was weaker than the previous and they no longer had the power of their ancestors. In the end, they were reduced to the Demon Clan. Just like the Dragon Clan and the Demon Clan in the Tong Tian Tower, the Demon Clan in the Heaven Realm and the Heaven Realm yearned to return. To fulfill the will of their ancestors. For the innate will to return to the Demon Clan. For the ancient summoning in their bloodline, like a volcano, the longer it stayed hidden, the more powerful it would erupt, awakening one's original self, cleansing the sins of their ancestors, obtaining the approval of the immortal clan and returning to the Eastern world. This was the nature and instinct of every Demon Clan. No matter how beautiful the Heaven Realm was, no matter how much power and honor the Demon Clan enjoyed, they could not hide the emptiness in their hearts. Because the Heaven Realm did not belong to the Demon Clan. Here, the Demon Clan was more like a passerby who had no choice but to stay here. Please accept the highest respect from the Tang Valley's three-legged Golden Crow tribe. Supreme Jin rushed forward and sincerely bowed to the emerald-dressed lady. The three-legged Golden Crow tribe was a very famous Dongfang tribe in the Heaven Realm. Because it had only been less than 20,000 years since they came to the Heaven Realm, the living habits of the Golden Crow tribe had not changed at all. The Valley of Tang rarely intermarried with the outside world. This kind of self-isolation that did not care about worldly affairs and stood aloof from worldly affairs was mainly to maintain the purity of their bloodline. Supreme Jin was more eager to return to the Eastern world than the demon god. After all, the Golden Crow clan had more hope. Among some of the most seniors, there were complicated relationships and bloodlines that could not be told to outsiders. Seeing the arrival of the immortal tribe, Supreme Jin trembled with excitement. Even though it was only a young immortal Qilin, if he could befriend it, perhaps the future of the three-legged Golden Crow tribe might change one day. You are the three-legged Golden Crow. The woman in emerald green robes was the Qilin girl, Bing Yin. She tilted her little head and glanced at Supreme Jin before shaking her head. It seems that your people have committed a great sin. The power of your bloodline has been sealed very badly. Our ancestors have been killing too much and it has been a disaster to this day. Of course, Supreme Jin knew the reason why the Golden Crow tribe was banished. It's okay if I've done something wrong. It's fine as long as I correct it. I often do wrong things and my mother has always forgiven me. The Qilin girl, Bing Yin, waved her hand calmly and comforted the tearful Supreme Jin. Her words made everyone blush with shame. What kind of mistake could a muddle-headed worm like you make? Of course, my mother forgave you. How could the three-legged Golden Crow tribe be the same? Of course, being banished from the country and deprived of the qualification to be an immortal beast was already considered a relatively light punishment. If it was strictly enforced, the entire tribe might be exterminated. Yes, however, what could Supreme Jin say now? He could only nod. You don't have to bow. I can see it. The Qilin girl, Bing Yin gestured to the demon god tribe and the others that there was no need to be so courteous. She smiled and said, I understand your feelings very well. Let's not talk about you guys. I've been away from home for a while and I miss my mother very much. I miss everything at home. How about this? I'm going to help a big bad guy fight now. However, I'm not very good at fighting, yes. Supreme Jin and the demon god tribe were overjoyed when they heard this. You're not good at fighting but we are. It was better to have a chance to serve them than anything else. Not to mention that they needed to be recruited for this battle. Even if it had nothing to do with their own tribe, they would desperately help to fight for such an opportunity. After listening, the Qilin girl, Bing Yin, made a condition, if this battle is won, I'll tell my mother. Whether it can be done depends on your luck. I can't guarantee it, I can think of a way to unlock part of the bloodline seal in your bodies. Of course, it's more suitable to find that big bad guy to do it. Yes, sacrifice my life and brain to the ground, until my death. Both Supreme Jin and the demon god tribe were so moved that they were about to cry. If they could make a contribution, there would be a chance. Even if the old man was guilty and could never go back, the newly born juniors should have a chance to return to the Eastern world, right? What was the purpose of working hard for so many years? It was all for the future of those little bastards. Tantai Tumi secretly cursed. With the arrival of this immortal Qilin, the opponents' scattered camp immediately became an iron plate. In order to lead the tribe back, Supreme Jin and the demon god tribe would fight to the death. He understood it very well. Return. What it meant to the Eastern Lost Tribe. Even if all of them had to die in battle, these crazy fellows would still charge forward wave after wave. Perhaps killing an immortal beast is a great sin and the most dangerous action in the world. However, I have no other choice. Tantai Tumi was glad that the immortal Qilin in front of him was only a baby and had no guards. If it was an adult, everything would be over. How dare you? Supreme Jin stepped forward. He stood tall and proud like a mountain. His body burned with the unique divine sun fire of the three-legged Golden Crow tribe. Scram! Tantai Tumi raised his giant palm and sent Supreme Jin flying 100,000 meters away. Me too. The demon god tribe was already standing in front of Tantai Tumi. His body was also burning with divine fire, but it was not the scorching divine sun fire. Instead, it was a yin demon fire that could devour everything. The demon fire was unpredictable. Once it was ignited, everyone felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. Cold air invaded their bodies and turned every drop of water into ice. The most terrifying thing was that the demon fire could devour the surrounding god power. Any god power that entered the demon fire would be silently digested and fused with it. Tantai Tumi swung his fist and forcefully punched through the demon fire. His fist landed heavily on the demon god tribe's chest. Several of the demon god tribe's sternum broke. He could not help but spit out blood. It was like a waterfall. However, the demon god tribe did not move. His body was like a mountain. Other than pain, his bloodshot eyes were also filled with determination and confidence. Are you trying to defeat me? You'll need at least 1,000 punches. Before that, I won't fall and I won't let you pass. The demon god tribe's attitude was that Tantai Tumi would not be able to attack the Qilin girl behind him unless he stepped over his dead body. That's right, don't even think about it before you kill us. Supreme Jin returned. A large piece of his sternum was also broken, but he was just as determined. Then I'll kill the two of you first, Tantai Tumi scoffed heartlessly. He was a man who cared about results and not the process. As long as he could kill the enemy. No matter what, 1,000 punches, 10,000 punches. As long as the result was achieved, it did not matter. Did he think that he could stop his actions with his attitude and sacrifice? What a joke. In this world, only strength was the guarantee of everything. In this world where strength was respected, if one did not have enough strength, no matter how good one's aspirations and wishes were, they would all be empty talk and a joke. All of you, stop right now. The arrogant man roared. His face was flushed with agitation, and his body was trembling like a sick man with a pendulum. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, he took a step forward and threw himself at the feet of the Qilin girl Bing Yin. He knelt on one knee and made a pleading gesture with both hands. Please, I've had enough of this damn life. I don't fight back when I'm hit or scolded. I love life and be kind to others. These are not in my character at all. I was born arrogant and unruly. If I see something I don't like, I'll just slap it to death. Hurry up and banish me. I don't want to be an immortal beast that is restrained and suppressed. I want to be a demon beast that does whatever I want and does all kinds of evil. Huh. The eyes of the demon god tribe and supreme Jin all widened as if they had seen the craziest madman in the world. You're Xianxia. The Qilin girl Bing Yin finally recognized the arrogant man. Please hurry up and banish me. I can't hold it anymore. This battle has been going on for a long time and I can only watch. Can you let me have some fun? I don't want to be an immortal beast anymore. I want to be myself. I can fight and scold whenever I want. My life is in my own hands. I can do whatever I want in the world. The arrogant man Xianxia looked very serious. Oh, a child who is still in the rebellious stage is really unreasonable. When Qilin girl Bing Yin said this, she forgot that she was just a big loli. Help me, I really want to fight. The arrogant man Xianxia was very anxious. I can help you, but I don't seem to know you very well. Bing Yin shook her head. I'm going crazy. The arrogant man Xianxia was very mad. The Scarlet Warden Tantai Tu Mie would not sit idly by and watch this happen. Although he did not know what would happen after the immortal beast was banished, the sense of danger in his heart still prompted him to act immediately. His divine power burst out like a monstrous tide. With the power to topple the mountains and overturn the seas, his divine body rushed towards the Qilin girl Bing Yin. As long as he killed the only immortal Qilin who could change the battlefield, then everything would be settled. Supreme Jin and the demon god were even faster than him. They stood tall like mountains and blocked his path at the first moment. Naturally, they could not sit idly by and watch Tantai Tu Mie act. Regardless of whether the Scarlet Warden's attack would hurt the target they were protecting, it was absolutely unforgivable. Even if they were to die here, they could not let him hurt the target, not even a single hair. Supreme Jin completely gave up on attacking and used all his divine power to block Tantai Tu Mie's attack. Monster God used his unique divine power to assist Supreme Jin. They never cooperated. However, they were as one. Two completely different divine powers merged unbelievably. Compared to a single divine power, it was at least 10 times stronger. That was how they managed to block Tantai Tu Mie's heavy attack. What? Tantai Tu Mie was in disbelief. Supreme Jin and Monster God worked together to block his all-out attack. We did it. Supreme Jin and Monster God were so excited that their blood was boiling. They fought with their lives on the line. Without any distractions, they worked together to fight against the enemy. Who would have thought that it would be a great success? It was far beyond their expectations. If this was really possible, then they would have more confidence in protecting the target. Supreme Jin and Monster God looked at each other and nodded. Their bodies formed a triangular formation as they stood in front of Qilin girl Bing Yin. If they wanted to attack her, they would have to step over their corpses. This was what they were protecting. For their clansmen, for their return, for the call of their ancestors, they could give up this life. As long as they made contributions in this battle for the birth of the Holy Supreme, then it would no longer be an unreachable dream for their clansmen to return to the Eastern clan. Come on. Supreme Jin's eyes were filled with fanaticism. Let me use my blood to wash away the sins of the past. I understand now. The demon Thirk let out a smile. He recalled his father's figure that was far away. He finally understood. Generations after generations, they had sacrificed wave after wave. What was the value of this kind of sacrifice? Sacrifice, it turned out, was the greatest protection, and also the best release. It was even the beginning of another kind of life form. Selflessly sacrificing oneself for others, for the clansmen, for the future generations. This kind of sacrifice or protection was the true meaning of life passed down from generation to generation. All of you, go to hell. Tantai Tu Mie was furious. His divine power covered the sky and the earth. His fists turned into thousands of suns, shining brightly in the sky. Bang 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 bang, many deep fist marks appeared on the bodies of Supreme Jin and Monster God. Blood gushed out of their mouths and noses like a waterfall. Their divine power was exhausted like a lonely lamp. The demon fire that sustained their lives was faintly discernible and almost extinguished. However, their bodies still stood proudly on the spot, firmly standing in front of Qilin Girl Bingyin, motionless. The nine-headed snake, nine-headed worm, and the other demons rushed forward in an attempt to help Monster God. However, Tantai Tumi casually pointed with his fingers. His divine power was like a hammer, striking them down one by one. They were badly injured and could not move. Do you really think you can stop this warden's path? Tantai Tumi sneered. He looked ruthlessly at the bruised and bloodied Supreme Jin and Monster God. How many more punches can you take? Right now, even if a baby were to wave his fist, he could still easily knock you down. Limit. Supreme Jin and Monster God also understood that the attack just now was the limit of their bodies. However, even if they were to die, they would not allow the enemy to pass before they completely collapsed. Absolutely not. His fists were like the sun. They reappeared in the sky. The earth-shattering divine power drowned Supreme Jin and Monster God. Tantai Tumi walked over step by step until he was in front of Qilin Girl Bingyin. Supreme Jin and Monster God crawled up from the ground in pain. They rushed over desperately, but Scarlet Warden Tantai Tumi disdainfully kicked them to the left and right. You overestimate yourselves. Now, who else? Tantai Tumi arrogantly looked down at Qilin Girl Bingyin in front of him. As for the angry and unruly man in front of him, he was undoubtedly as weak as a bug in his eyes. He simply ignored him. The unruly Changqi was so angry that he almost went crazy. However, he had no choice. Even if he did not have the law, he was no match for Tantai Tumi, the Scarlet Warden. Supreme Jin desperately tried to prop up his heavy body and continue fighting. Tantai Tumi casually pressed down with his divine power like a mountain. On the other side, Monster God tried his best to resist, but his arms and body were still sinking into the ground bit by bit. Everywhere, many demons and gods were scattered on the ground. There were no more experts to resist. Go to hell. The heaven realm is not a place where you should be. This place belongs to us. Tantai Tumi raised his giant hand high, ready to crush Qilin Girl in front of him into powder in the next second. Killing immortal beasts, especially super high-level immortal beasts, was undoubtedly the craziest move. Doing so could lead to a war between the two realms. However, Tantai Tumi did not hesitate. As long as it was an obstacle on Tian Yu's path to the Divine Supreme, no matter who it was, no matter where it came from, no matter what impact it would have, he would get rid of it. To Tantai Tumi, even if the entire Heaven Realm and Heaven Realm were destroyed tomorrow, as long as he could help Tian Yu reach the top today, there was nothing to regret. Die. Tantai Tumi's giant hand closed like a hammer and smashed down. You're so fierce, I'm not going to fight you. Qilin Girl Bingyin saw this and did not forget to stick out her pink tongue cutely. The emerald green figure flashed and then disappeared without a trace in Tantai Tumi's earth-shattering divine power shock. Wave. Tantai Tumi was shocked. Disappeared. How was this possible? He had locked onto her with his divine sense. How could she escape under his watch? Moreover, what was even more unbelievable was that even Changqi, who tried to block Tantai Tumi with his arm but could not even block one finger, disappeared. When he looked back again, he suddenly found that the emerald green figure inconceivably appeared on a platform not far away. Her little hand was blooming with thousands of rays of light, soft and gentle, like an upside-down rainbow. In this wonderful rainbow light, Emperor Jin and the Demon Emperor, who were seriously injured and fell to the ground, the nine-headed demon tribe, the double-headed dragon Yue Yang and other heavenly dragons, Kanghai, Laming, Yinping, Elvian and other heavenly realm shadow gods, as well as Changqi, all of them quickly shrank in the brilliance. No matter how tall or short their original bodies were, they all became as thin as beans. Flying along the rainbow light, all of them slipped into the slender hands of Qilin Girl Bingyin. Clenching her small fists and lowering her head, Qilin Girl Bingyin, who was lost and confused, boldly moved forward. Regardless of the consequences, she rushed forward and easily broke through the restriction of the supreme law of the Divine Palace. Under the pressure of the Scarlet Warden Tantai Tumi's divine power, she broke through the space barrier without any delay, and the emerald green figure instantly disappeared in the vast ancient passage. Faintly, There were a few words that made people not know whether to laugh or cry. Where is this? It seems to be a mistake again, but it doesn't matter. We will find the place. Go on, go on. Tantai Tumi was petrified. He could not imagine this incredible change at all. For the first time in his life, he felt that power was not omnipotent. In the Tianping world, the battle between Yue Yang and Tian Yu continued. Now the supreme Tian Yu of the Divine Palace was full of confidence, especially when the warriors of the Divine Palace escorted Yi Kong, Fatty Hai and other powerhouses of the Tong Tian Tower. There was a mysterious smile on his lips. Don't worry about us, we have enough. It's worth it to be able to come here and fight until here in this life. Yi Kong, who was bruised and exhausted, had no strength to struggle, but his will was still as hard as steel, and he would rather die than surrender. If the enemy wanted to use him to threaten Yue Yang, he would never agree. For the desperate wanderer who almost starved to death on the first floor of the Tong Tian Tower, his life was exciting enough to fight until now. He had no regrets in life. Fatty Hai's face, which had been deformed from the beating, was smiling. Although his smile was uglier than crying, he was still smiling, just like a fool. Shui Tan Lang and Prince of Tian Luo did not say a word, as if they were not in a slaughterhouse that was about to be torn to shreds, but in a quiet and secluded manner. They even looked at the divine temple's maze formation laid by the deity palace's supreme elder Tian Yu with interest, as if they were beautiful green trees and red flowers. Seeing that all the warriors of the Tong Tian Tower had been captured, Shui Wuxia and Princess Sissy looked at each other and nodded solemnly. Yes, yes, now, it was time for the battle to begin. The corridor formed by the wall of size extended all the way to the edge of the Dead Sea. Sickly Beauty was the first to fly forward. With every step she took, the light of the wall of size grew brighter, extending by 1 meter. Yu Yu followed closely behind her. She brought the tidal sea witch closer to the Dead Sea. When she set foot on the edge of the Dead Sea, the tide of the Dead Sea roared like a startled beast, sweeping up 1,000-meter-tall waves. Make way, this is the will of the Ocean Empress. As the Empress of the Seas, Hai Lan angrily raised her hands and forcefully parted them. The gigantic waves of the Dead Sea that covered the sky and covered the earth unstoppably opened up a wide path for her. Rumble, the Dead Sea roared. Huge waves the size of small mountains rolled up and down, as if they were about to pounce on the girls who dared to provoke it and swallow them whole. However, no matter how angry it was, it could not stop them from moving forward. A nomological power that far exceeded its intelligence was extending from the wall of size, turning into a long corridor that led straight into the Dead Sea. Billions of cursed spirits of the Dead Sea were howling, spinning, and pouring out from the middle passage of the Dead Sea. They let out the most terrifying cries and curses in the world as they stretched out their arms, ready to pass through the sealed corridor of the wall of size and embrace the enemies with death. Lu Yi walked down from the perforate deer. She reached out with both hands. She stuck close to the wall of size. In the blink of an eye, the light on the wall of size increased by thousands of times, and a kind of inviolable rule of cleansing was added to it. This kind of pure power was brighter and purer than holy power. The cursed spirits of the Dead Sea screamed in fear and scattered in all directions. Some of the dead spirits that could not escape in time crashed into the wall of size, and instantly let out horrifying screams. Under the rule of cleansing, their illusory and formless bodies dissipated like steam in agony. Everything they had before and after they died turned into nothingness. Return to chaos. The battle has just begun. Sisters, charge. Princess Sissy raised the Helltiger divine sword and pointed it at the depths of the Dead Sea. Charge, let's fight together. Victory. Drunken Cat and the Southern Demon King were the fastest to charge. Niu Panda Girl looked back at Yue Yang, who was being beaten by Tian Yu, worriedly. She gritted her teeth, clenched her fists, and firmly followed her mother's footsteps. Yi Kong and Fatty Hai, on the other hand, were confused. What kind of trouble was this? The battle had just begun. What did that mean? Could it be that the battle was going to continue? Chapter 1389, Not bad, I like this choice. Tian Yu did not care about Shui Wuxia and the others' choice of battle at all, nor did he care about their attack on the Dead Sea. For him, no matter what an ant-like enemy did, it was not worth mentioning. Just like Dong Fang, the man who was known as the Central Shrine's #1 think tank, who planned everything meticulously. He was indeed smarter than ordinary people, but so what? In the face of an extremely powerful Supreme Master, what was the use of having high intelligence? Could designing, setting up, and scheming allow an ant to defeat a god? Strength was the real guarantee, the prerequisite of everything. This was also the only truth in the heaven realm. And this truth was in his hands. Besides, Tian Yu never thought that anyone in the world could surpass him in wisdom. Not even Dong Fang. If he was a little more open-minded in terms of cultivation, how could Dong Fang be the central shrine's #1 wisdom? Let them go. Then, you can play with them and kill them as much as you want. Tian Yu signaled his temple warriors to let go of Yi Kong, Fatty Hai, and the others. With a flick of his finger, Yi Kong, Fatty Hai, and the other warriors of the 3 Tong Tian clan were all thrown into the sky. Each of them turned into a meteor and fell into different shrines. In those shrines, Yi Kong, Fatty Hai, and the others would suffer the heaviest suppression and the most painful torment. Their strength would be reduced to the weakest. Every second, they were all panting in pain and despair. As for the temple warriors under the command of Tian Yu, they would receive the greatest enhancement and amplification. Ahem, Supreme Master, please allow us to die for you. I guarantee that our loyalty will be comparable to the eternal Great Light Mountain. Tian Tu, Shen Tu, Tu Shi, Tu Wan, as well as the surviving Heaven Realm great leaders who followed the temple warriors saw the situation and quietly exchanged looks. They all knelt at the feet of Tian Yu, the supreme of the temple, and kissed the ground beside his feet, begging for a chance to serve this future supreme divine lord. Go, do what you like to do. I believe in your choices. I can guarantee that your efforts will be rewarded greatly. Tian Yu didn't even glance at them out of the corner of his eyes. However, he did not reject the loyalty of these ants. He only cared about one person, and that was Yue Yang, the other candidate for the fated battle. Tian Yu carelessly yawned and magnanimously said to Yue Yang, "You clan's 3rd young master, if you still have any tricks up your sleeves, just use them. Otherwise, this duel will be too boring." Yue Yang couldn't be bothered to retort. He hurriedly gathered his divine power and strengthened the martial practitioners of the 3 sky-reaching clans who were struggling in pain in the various sacred halls. Otherwise, Yi Kong, Fatty Hai and the others wouldn't even be able to survive for a minute. Tian Yu watched quietly and did not intervene with Yue Yang. His expression was a little strange, as if he would regret it for the rest of his life if he did not force Yue Yang to the end. You must have a trump card, but why aren't you using it? Tian Yu believed in his intuition. Don't worry, we'll use it when the time comes. Yue Yang expressed that now was not the time. Then let's continue. Tian Yu decided to increase the pressure. He suspected that there was a protector standing behind this kid, and this protector would only intervene at the very last moment. Perhaps this guardian was not something this brat could control, or perhaps it was just protecting his life and not interfering with his daily life. Of course, there was another possibility. Although there was a guardian, it could not interfere with this fated battle. If it was the latter, then Tian Yu felt that he just had to enjoy the duel before advancing to the divine supreme martial artist. No, this was not a duel at all. It was a brutal killing. Although Titan Yu was the candidate for the divine fate duel, he was no match for him at all. He could not even compare to one of his fingers. Struggling people, let me give you a present. Tian Yu raised his hands high up and divine light shone brightly. Billions of divine lights flickered in the balanced world like fireworks. An extremely special and wondrous law covered the entire Libra world like a net. No matter where it was in the world, everything was within the net. It was like a fishing net. Shui Wuxia, Princess Sissy and the others who attacked the Dead Sea were instantly caught by the law of the heavenly net, along with the crystal corridor formed by the sighing wall. On the net, there were also Yi Kong, Fatty Hai, Shui Tan Lang and the other warriors of the Tong Tian clan. More spider monsters surged out of the temples in the balanced world at the same time. They were frantically pouncing on the enemies restricted by the law of the heavenly net, so many spiders. Shui Wuxia's face was filled with disgust. She waved her lily-white hands, and a kind of ice and snow divine power, born in ancient times and supported by supreme wisdom, engulfed the entire balanced world. In an instant, the monsters that surged out of the temples froze, and then turned into frozen zombies. Tian Yu was slightly stunned. Shui Wuxia held the divine pearl of fate in her right hand, which represented wisdom and guidance. She seemed to throw a punch casually, and the law of the heavenly net around her disappeared instantly. The law of heaven and earth returned to normal. Let's gather together. The illusion moon goddess and Princess Sissy hurried over to respond. They broke the law of the heavenly net and protected Inan, Yu Bing and the others in the center. What about you? Aren't you going to do anything? Tianyu turned to look at Yue Yang. As soon as he said this, the cold air in the balance scale world dissipated. Countless spider beasts rushed out of the temple. Like a flood bursting through a dam, they covered the sky and covered the earth as they tried to swallow the warriors of Tong Tian Tower. Yue Yang did not do anything. He just looked at the direction of the ancient god gate quietly. Tianyu was a little puzzled. Could it be that the Yu clan's third young master had reinforcements? But even if there were reinforcements, they couldn't enter through the ancient god gate, right? Now that the fate showdown had begun, no one could enter through the ancient god gate. Just as Tianyu was feeling suspicious, the ancient god gate suddenly made a dong sound, as if someone had put their head on it. Then, he heard a painful groan. Were there really reinforcements? Before he could react, he heard another dong sound. This time, it was even louder. Who was it that would use their head to hit the ancient god gate? Tianyu looked at Yue Yang in surprise, only to see that the Yu clan's third young master was also sweating profusely. Did I open it the wrong way? A very stupid and cute voice rang out. Dong. This time, even Tianyu, who was the enemy, was speechless. Grandpa Divine Gate, please let me in. I have something urgent to do. Once the cute girl started to act cute, she did not care about time, place or person. The ancient god gate could also be opened by acting cute. Yue Yang did not even have the energy to retort. However, what made him incredulous was that the ancient god gate really opened a small space, allowing the cute girl outside to turn into a green light and enter. As soon as she came in, she did not look at anyone and threw herself into Sickly Beauty's arms, crying pitifully, "Sister Wuan, my head hurts so much that it's like a bun, and it's so hard to find here, woo-woo." Sickly Beauty's heart ached so much that she hurriedly hugged her and comforted her gently. Don't cry, you did a good job. Everyone knows that you worked hard. Bing Yin, be good, don't cry." Yue Yang's face was full of sweat. Tianyu looked for a long time and found that it was just an immortal beast seedling. It looked like a bean sprout, and its strength was so weak that it made people speechless. As a result, the big stone in his heart that was originally hanging in the air finally fell down. This is your trump card. Tianyu now felt sad for Yue Yang. It was better not to show such a trump card, and even if it was shown, it would be worse than not showing it. At least from the enemy's point of view, there was no more reassuring than this trump card. Tianyu glanced at Qilin girl Bing Yin again and again, and his heart finally confirmed that if Yu clan's third young master had no other tricks, then he was the last and only winner of this fate duel. What are you doing here? Yue Yang felt that this Qilin girl's only help here was to make trouble. I'm here to help. Qilin girl Bing Yin raised her small fist. Okay. Yue Yang pointed to the distance. Stay there obediently. If you can hold back and not talk, it will help a lot. HMPH, good intentions are not rewarded. Qilin girl Bing Yin snorted. Fortunately, she was open-minded. Otherwise, she would not forgive this guy's unreasonable words. This was clearly looking down on her. If she didn't show him her power, he wouldn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Thousands of thoughts flashed through the Qilin girl's mind. She just wanted to show Yue Yang a lesson, and she had long forgotten about other things. Shui Wuxia looked at her small fist clenched tightly and asked curiously, "What are you holding?" Only then did Bing Yin wake up with a cry. She quickly let go. There was a flash of colorful light, and a large group of strong people returned to their original bodies in front of everyone's eyes. However, because they had shrunk their immortal power for too long, they could not help but groan in pain. Fortunately, each of them was a super strong person. If they were ordinary humans, they would have died long ago. Changqi recovered the fastest. He jumped up immediately and rushed to the demon dragon boss who was lying on the ground waiting for death. "Ah, boss, how did you become like this? If you were hit by a divine hammer, you would also lie on the ground pretending to be a dead dog like me." The demon dragon couldn't help but roll his eyes. "You are doing this on purpose, aren't you? Don't mention that pot of water. Who did it? I will avenge you." Changqi turned around, from the side of the demon dragon boss, and instantly rushed to the feet of Yue Yang. "It's not impossible to hug someone's thigh, but my thigh is only for beauties to hug." Yue Yang had always been a person who valued women more than men. "Please, banish me." There was a reason for Changqi to hug someone's thigh. He knew that the only person who had the ability to do so was Yue Yang. Although he was a fool. But, he was definitely not a retard. Yue Yang's tone was very similar to the Qilin girl Bing Yin. It's good, but I am not very familiar with you. Banishing immortal beasts might sound cool, but under normal circumstances, no one with normal intelligence would do such a thing. The reason was that behind every immortal beast was a family or a sect. Doing such a thing was equivalent to offending the people of a large family. What right do you have to banish my son to the lower realms? If you could scold him loudly, your son is in big trouble, I am doing this for his own good, maybe he can endure it, but if you banish him without any trouble, this kind of enthusiasm was even more infuriating than, I see that your wife is anxious because she is not pregnant, so I helped you, no need to thank me, please call me Lei Feng. Yue Yang had normal intelligence, and he was never a pain in the ass. So, Chongqi, this fool, better scram as far as possible. It was impossible to banish Chongqi, but Yue Yang would not hesitate to remove some of the seals on Supreme Jin and Fei Emperor. Now was the time when he urgently needed manpower. Not to mention reinforcements like Supreme Jin and Fei Emperor, he could not even waste a piece of toilet paper. Please, if you don't banish me, just seal me. As a fool, Chongqi had another idea. As an immortal beast, there was the rule of, if people don't offend me, I won't offend them. If others did not attack maliciously, they would not be able to use their full strength to fight. This rule was a good thing for other immortal beasts. To Chongqi, who always wanted to fight, it was a great misfortune. So, he would rather not be an immortal beast and willingly degenerate to live as he pleased. Otherwise, how could the Heaven Realm's #1 murderer, the demon dragon, become an immortal beast's idol? If banishing him didn't work, then he would seal him. It would be best if he could seal his status as an immortal beast for 1,000,000 years, and then recover it after he was done playing with it. Even if he couldn't recover it in the end, that was fine too. This was Chongqi's plan. How much of a pain in the ass do you have to be? Yue Yang was speechless. Since his son was willing to degenerate and take out his lowly skin for him to beat up, it would be inexcusable if he did not make a move. This seal could be recovered, but it was different from banishing him. When the time comes, a group of old ghosts would surround him and ask him to hand over his son. He could just kick this guy out and barely make do with it. Please, I want to fight even in my dreams. Chongqi's greatest desire in his life was to fight to his heart's content, no, to fight 10,000 times. I'll say this first, this is your request. Yue Yang's face was filled with helplessness. Yes, I strongly requested it. Chongqi was extremely cooperative. In the future, if your family comes looking for me to settle scores, you have to explain clearly that it has nothing to do with me. Yue Yang first cast aside this responsibility. Learning from Lei Feng, doing good deeds doesn't leave his name, but doing bad deeds also doesn't leave his name. I guarantee that no one will come looking for me. My family has never cared about me. Chongqi's comical behavior had probably made his family very sad. Since you are so serious and sincere in your request, Yue Yang felt that since it was like this, then he had to help Chongqi and his family solve the problem of them being reincarnated into the wrong body. Furthermore, there was still room for him to recover from the seal. It was different from being completely banished. When this comical child had played enough and calmed down, then it wouldn't be too late to unseal him. As for now, he would just let him be a qualified fighter. Indifferently, Tian Yu looked on with disdain as if he was watching a farce. He didn't care what Yue Yang did. Anyway, as long as he had the strongest power, no matter what the enemy did, it wouldn't be worth laughing at. Furthermore, the fate duel had to be like this for it to be a little more exciting, right? Struggle hard. I have high hopes for you, Yu Clan's third young master. Supreme Elder of the Deity Temple, Scarlet Warden Tantai Tu Mie has come to report. Before Yue Yang could complete the sealing ceremony, new enemy reinforcements arrived at the ancient passage. Furthermore, it was the extremely powerful Tantai Tu Mie. Tian Yu looked at Tantai Tu Mie who was kneeling on the ground. He didn't say anything and only nodded slightly. His eyes looked towards the deepest part of the ancient passage. There was also a shadow. It was moving at high speed, flying over. Chapter 1390, hurry up and seal it or it will be too late. Chongqi was the most anxious. As soon as Tantai Tumi arrived, he rushed to Yue Yang and shouted at the top of his lungs, reminding Yue Yang to stop watching the show. The enemy's reinforcements were still coming. If he did not activate the sealing ritual, he would not even know how he would die. Not only him, Supreme Jin and the Demon Thirk were also very anxious. However, they did not dare to rush him. They could only be anxious. Yue Yang took a deep look at the shadow at the ancient passage and pressed his hand on the top of Changqi's head. In the name of the future Holy Supreme, supreme divine power flowed within Changqi's body, which was completely defenseless. Finally, he formulated a sealing law that would cut off all restraints and fate. Roar, 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 Changqi screamed in extreme pain. Blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. Once the sealing law was successfully formulated, he would completely change from an immortal beast to a fallen demonic beast. The law of peace was sealed and his fate changed. The power that was originally hidden in his body erupted like a volcano, rising from the top of his head. In the sky, an unknown mournful music was faintly heard from the space-time world outside the sky. The law of peace was sealed. The pure immortal beast power was transformed into a super-violent demonic beast power. The entire balanced scale was dyed red by this terrifying murderous demonic power. The entire sky was like blood. The ground was like a prison. With Changqi's feet as the center, billions of sabers, spears, swords, horns, fangs, claws, iron hooves, golden eyes, and silver scales formed from the ground, transforming into Changqi's unique demonic power law. When there was no restraint, the power was automatically released. As its master, Changqi could not believe that there was such a powerful power stored in his body. Ah! Changqi leapt up and unleashed his vast demonic power. The entire balanced scale was actually trembling under his will. However, he inexplicably shed tears of blood. Blood dripped onto the ground. It turned into a burning pool of blood. The mournful music from the sky was even louder. Heartless people like Yue Yang were still fine, but the sentimental fallen beauty and the rest were already in tears. That idiot! He actually abandoned himself. HMPH, I don't care about him. The Qilin girl Bing Yin wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes, and her little nose snorted angrily. She knew that it was easy to seal, but it was not so easy to restore it. Because Changqi was a bloodthirsty and belligerent animal, it was bound to commit a lot of sins because of its superpower. If it did not pay it back, it would not be able to return to the ranks of immortal beasts, just like another fallen model of the demonic dragon. Now, Scarlet Warden Tantai Tu Mie, I challenge you. Changqi couldn't wait any longer and wanted to fight the enemy. First of all, it was used for the operation. It was Tantai Tumi, the Scarlet Warden, who had once ignored him. Why wasn't it the deity temple's supreme heavenly chariot? Changqi was a warmonger who advocated violence, but he was not stupid. He knew that the final boss was not someone he could challenge. Challenging Tantai Tu Mie was his limit. And us, on the other hand, Supreme Jin and the demon god were both unsealed by Yue Yang's hands and not sealed. The images of the 3-legged golden crow and the 9-headed black tortoise. One on the left and one on the right. It expanded to the edge of the Tian Ping world. Although they were unable to return to the ranks of the immortal beasts, with Yue Yang's unsealing, Jin Di and Yao Di's powers were unsealed after they were banished. In the name of the future divine supreme elder, he accepted and approved their actions of atoning for their sins on the battlefield. The divine power all over his body was like the sun, emitting thousands of divine lights, each like a divine sword in the sky. This was the golden crow's divine power after Supreme Jin was unsealed. On the other hand, the divine power emitted by the demon god's body was as dark as hell, engulfing half of the sky. A kind of 9 underworld demonic fire that could even burn and extinguish divine light was faintly visible in the demon god's hand. From time to time, it would engulf and transform the divine light emitted by Supreme Jin and the other powerhouses. Wow! The 2-headed dragon Yue Yang and the others looked at Changqi, Supreme Jin, and the demon god enviously. Only the 3 of them were recognized by Yue Yang. The rest, including the 9-headed demon tribe and the shadow gods, did not receive the same favor, let alone the heavenly dragon tribe, who were previously enemies. Right now, there were 2 paths in front of them. The first option for Yue Yang and the others was to follow deities Templars Supreme Tian Yu. It seemed like this boss would definitely win. Although they wouldn't be able to be put in an important position, at least they would be able to keep their lives. If they didn't want to be the ants under Tian Yu's command, Yue Yang and the others could still choose to follow the Yu clan's 3rd young master, who looked like he would definitely lose. If Titan Yu was able to reverse the situation and choose the second path, then he would be able to strike it rich. Being placed in an important position was the most basic. If he did well, he might even be able to enter the Eastern world to gain experience. Don't you need to think about it? The 2-headed dragon Yue Yang still wanted to discuss with the shadow gods, but who would have thought that the shadow gods would all rush over to Yue Yang's side? HMPH, take your time to think, there's no need to rush. Among the shadow deities, Yin Ping made a face at Ji Yuang. The Black Terror race is willing to die for supremacy. The Wild Boar Demon and the Black Bear Demon knelt down. The one they were kowtowing to was not the temple's supreme heavenly chariot. Instead, it was Yue Yang. No matter how bad the situation was, they were all descendants of the goblin race. Perhaps the goblin race's bloodline was so thin that it was not even acknowledged by the Goblin Emperor, the boss of the goblin race in the heaven realm. However, it did not stop them from having the heart to return with pride. Even though they knew that they would definitely lose and die in battle, they still chose to do so. Furthermore, they had no regrets. Even pigs are smarter than you guys. Lu Yin from the Shadow God snorted. If we die, then we die. Let's go all out, let's go all out. The two-headed dragon Ji Yuang and the beautiful Queen Thousand Bones Crispy looked at each other and hurriedly rushed over. They knelt at the feet of Yue Yang, pledging their allegiance to the Yu clan's third young master whose strength could not be compared to the temple's supreme heavenly chariot. Abandoning the first option that would definitely win and be safe, and walking on the second option that would definitely fail and be dangerous, the two-headed dragon Ji Yuang even felt that he must have gone crazy to be so retarded. Are you really going to choose this way? Tian Yu was a little puzzled. Can we choose again? When the two-headed dragon Ji Yuang weakly asked this question, even his companion, Myriad Bones Paralysis, felt embarrassed. Alright, I will give you a chance to choose again. The temple's supreme heavenly chariot's favorite thing to do was to endlessly attack Yue Yang. This was because this person was his mortal enemy, the biggest obstacle to becoming a divine sovereign in the future. It can't be, the demon dragon shouted, even a thick-skinned person like me wouldn't do such a thing, you're too shameless. Shut up, don't you want to reconsider this matter? The two-headed dragon Ji Yuang was really anxious. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dared to shout at the demon dragon even if he had the guts of a water jar. What is your choice? Tian Yu looked at the two-headed dragon Ji Yuang. A slap in the face. What he wanted was a slap in the face brought about by this betrayal. What he wanted to do to Yue Yang was to make him sink into complete despair, and then watch helplessly as he ascended to the divine sovereign realm with boundless pain and regret. The purpose of the fated duel was to make the name of the future divine sovereign have a divine will that could not be challenged or blasphemed. The two-headed dragon Ji Yuang returned to the center of the balanced world. He lowered his head. He looked like he was in a dilemma. As his companion, the beautiful Queen Thousand Bones Crispy couldn't help but cover her face with her hands. She couldn't bear to watch such an embarrassing scene. Alright, I've made my choice. The two-headed dragon Ji Yuang clenched his fists. He finally made up his mind on what path he would take in the future. Very good. Tell everyone clearly what choice you've made. Tell everyone what is the correct choice. The corner of Tian Yu's lips curled into a smile. He was very confident. From the moment the two-headed dragon Ji Yuang changed his mind, he knew that this ant would never choose the Yu clan's third young master again. You traitor! The demon dragon was already cursing furiously. Don't run into my hands, otherwise, I guarantee that you'll wish you were dead. Supreme Jin and Fei Emperor looked at the two-headed dragon Ji Yuang with extreme hatred. Ha 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 ha, Tantai Tu Mie laughed. The two-headed dragon Ji Yuang shouted in a trembling voice under the confused gaze of his companion. Thousand Bones Crispy, my final choice is the Yu clan's third young master. What? The temple's warriors who were watching the commotion all had their eyeballs fall to the ground. Did I hear wrongly? The demon dragon was also stunned. What? The beautiful Queen, Thousand Bones Paralysis, also looked at her comrade, whose words and actions were so strange, in disbelief. Why is that? Heavenly Chariot wasn't angry. Instead, he looked calm. However, he glanced at Yue Yang and asked in a casual manner. Because I want to play a trick on you. The two-headed dragon Ji Yuang shouted with all his might under Heavenly Chariot's pressure, I'm going to rely on the Yu clan's third young master. He was originally my enemy. If I rely on him like this, even if he doesn't bring up old scores, he won't take our Heavenly Dragon clan seriously. Since I've chosen him, I have to throw caution to the wind and try to make a good impression in front of him to show my loyalty and attitude. Heavenly Chariot was stunned for a second. Then he nodded, I'm surprised. I didn't think that an ant like you would also play tricks. However, you might be gambling a little too much. The sweat on the two-headed dragon Ji Yuang's forehead flowed down like water. His hands and feet were trembling, but his voice gradually returned to normal. I won't gamble. If I rely on your side, I will die in the end. Instead of being a coward, I might as well be a hero, even if it's only for a short while. Good, brat, I admire you. The demon dragon laughed so hard that snot bubbles came out of his nose. He was extremely happy that Heavenly Chariot failed to show off and got slapped in the face instead. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't move, he even wanted to give the two-headed dragon Yue Yang a huge bear hug. The anger of Jin Di, Fey Emperor, and shadow deities disappeared. Even Changqi, the guy who looked down on others, gave him a thumbs up for the first time. The hatred of the people on Heavenly Chariot's side soared. The Scarlet Warden, Tantai Tu Mie, looked at the two-headed dragon Yue Yang like a dead man. When he returned to Yue Yang's side, the two-headed dragon Yue Yang felt so uncomfortable that he almost peed his pants. That was the supreme Heavenly Chariot of the temple. A slap in the face. Do you think you're not afraid at all? Nonsense. In the depths of the ancient passage, the high-speed shadow finally arrived. The person who came was a super expert whose strength was close to the previous supreme guardian of light. He came from the great light hall of the central shrine, and was one of Heavenly Chariot's masters. He was one of the three elders who attacked the snake demon Empress Fei Wenli with his companions Supreme Time and Supreme Lamp, Supreme Qihong. Supreme Qihong also had another name, Tian Qi. His relationship with Heavenly Chariot. It was the biggest secret of the Great Light Mountain Central Shrine. However, no matter what the relationship between Supreme Qihong and Heavenly Chariot was, no one would doubt his role in Heavenly Chariot's life. Tian Qi, who had the divine power of Qihong and the laws of Qihong, was more useful than the Supreme Guardian of Light. He was the one who brought Heavenly Chariot's path to godhood to the peak. Although he was unknown to the outside world, but Supreme Qihong was undoubtedly the greatest master in the world. Even though he was seriously injured and on the verge of death, he still rushed here, hoping to make a final contribution to the promotion of his disciple, Supreme Heavenly Chariot. Master. They were both masters, but Heavenly Chariot would never be as polite to the Supreme Guardian of Light as he was to Supreme Qihong. Even if they were the same respect, the only one who could make Heavenly Chariot act so respectfully was this old man Tian Qi, who had been baptized by Qihong's divine power since birth. We must end this destiny duel as soon as possible. Supreme Qihong's first words made Heavenly Chariot feel heavy. The battle outside the Time Square is over. The magic lamp has died, and Time has decided to imprison herself in the Time Square for 10,000 years to atone for her sin of escaping the Light Sky prison. Although the snake demon Empress Fei Wenli is seriously injured, with her willpower, she will definitely grit her teeth and come to help. In order to avoid accidents, this destiny duel must end before Fei Wenli arrives, yes. Supreme Heavenly Chariot of the temple couldn't help but clench his fists when he heard the news that the magic lamp had died and Time had imprisoned herself. But he adjusted quickly, within half a second. That was the supreme willpower that was as still as a mountain. He glanced at Supreme Qihong, who refused to accept divine power to heal his injuries, and nodded. He turned his face and looked at Yue Yang, who was looking at him from afar. It's time to end this farce. Yu Clan's third young master had used all his trump cards and no longer held back. With his current strength, it was impossible to reverse the situation. This battle would be won without a doubt. Demon Dragon fell to the ground and couldn't get up. Night Dream and Motionless were too busy fighting. Snake Demon Empress Fei Wenli, who was seriously injured in the battle in the Time Square, couldn't make it in time. Just an immortal beast child and a few weak ant-like reinforcements wanted to reverse the situation. That would be a huge joke. In this fateful battle, after a lot of sacrifices, they had finally gotten their reward in the future. The Divine Sovereign was waiting for him in the future. All those who sacrificed themselves, please rest in peace. Heavenly Chariot will not disappoint you. Supreme Heavenly Chariot of the temple clenched his fists. His eyes revealed a kind of transcendent divine might that looked down on all living beings. It was clear that he was infinitely close to the Divine Sovereign realm. Yue Yang didn't dare to be careless at all. He stared at the biggest enemy in his life. Goodbye, my old enemy. After saying that, Heavenly Chariot appeared in front of Yue Yang. His fist, it hit Yue Yang's heart heavily. The supreme divine power, at this moment, was enough to shatter the entire Tian Ping world. It was concentrated in his fist and smashed into Yue Yang's chest with unstoppable force. Chapter 1391. Yue Yang fell. The balanced scale world was shaking. The entire destroyed space was slowly restored by the ancient origin power. The balanced scale world would not be destroyed, but for Yue Yang and Tian Yu who were fighting inside, this was actually a division of victory and defeat through strength. At this moment, the looming and invisible balance of the world seemed to have been overwhelmed by the incredible power of the heavenly chariot. The destiny balance of the two seemed to be leaning towards the side of the divine hall's supreme heavenly chariot. Tian Yu regarded this result as inevitable. If only Titan Yu could resist, could reverse, that would be strange. Sigh, this is really a boring battle. Tian Yu sighed slightly, the loneliness of an expert flashing past. Perhaps, only Conquest Queen Fei Wen Li who supported Titan Yu from behind was truly worthy of his battle. Stand up, the demon dragon hoped that a miracle could happen again, that Yue Yang, who had been defeated countless times, could stand up again. But this time was different. This time, Tian Yu used his full strength. Under the amplification of the hundreds of thousands of laws of the temple, and after absorbing the selfless gift of divine power from the Guardian of Light, as well as the guidance of Sovereign Qihong and the other seniors, Sky Chariot's divine power had been raised to an inconceivable level. Even he himself had never thought that he could possess such great power. This level of full-strength attack, not to mention Yue Yang, even the peerless Emperor Wu Shuang, who had collapsed previously, could not take it head-on. Seeing this result, Master Qihong was very pleased. Heavily injured and on the verge of death, he silently nodded and breathed a sigh of relief. The outcome was decided. How much effort and sacrifice had the Heaven Realm put in, and now they finally got the best return. The future Divine Supreme now officially belonged to the Heaven Realm. Countless generations of dreams, pursuits, and sacrifices had been made. At this moment, it belonged to the Radiant Mountain, to the central shrine. The seed that he had planted with his own hands had finally grown into a towering tree, becoming the best pillar. He had not misjudged and made the right choice. Tian Yu was truly the best candidate for the Heaven Realm. Ah! A sorrowful howl erupted from the depths of the Dead Sea, and a storm swept across the entire area. The gigantic paragon guardian of the Dead Sea rose from the Dead Sea. There was no joy of victory on his face. On the contrary, his expression was extremely unsightly, and his eyes were filled with grief and despair. What happened? Not to mention the ordinary warriors of the Divine Hall, even Exalt Qihong and Heavenly Chariot couldn't figure out what was going on. The warriors of the Temple of God, who had been cheering wildly for their victory, had their voices cut off like knives. Everyone looked at the Supreme Guardian of the Dead Sea in confusion. Ah, all of you are idiots. The autarch of the Dead Sea Guardian was like a madman. He roared with all his might as he shouted angrily at everyone present, including Autarch Starter and Sky Chariot. And you, Sky Chariot, you are far too arrogant. You blindly believe in your own strength and have completely abandoned all caution and humility. Damn it, you're being played in the palm of someone else's hand, yet you're still so pleased with yourself. It's really infuriating. If you could calm your fanatical mind and think about the whole situation, you wouldn't have fallen into such a passive state. What did you say? Paragon Qihong was stunned. Don't you understand what I'm saying? Have all of you become muddle-headed with age? You've done your best to support him, push him, and sweep away all obstacles for him. You think you can help him this way, but you're wrong. You've completely harmed him. You've paved a bright path for him, but do you think that's the way to heaven? You should be vigilant, not careless. The Supreme Guardian of the Dead Sea was so angry that he was about to go crazy. What exactly happened? Sky Chariot couldn't understand. His opponent in the Fate Duel, Yu Clan's third young master Titan Yu, had already been defeated by him. This Fate Duel was already a foregone conclusion. What was there to be angry about? Supreme Heavenly Chariot, the one who should reflect the most is you. The Supreme Guardian of the Dead Sea roared thunderously. Look at what you've done. You've actually been deceived by a weak warrior of Tong Tian Tower. You've been played in the palm of his hand, and you're still ignorant of it. As an absolute candidate for the Fate Duel, you've done far from enough. I really suspect that there's something else in your brain other than muscles. Deceived. Sky Chariot was stunned. Who could deceive him? Was it the Yu Clan's third young master who could be killed with just a punch from an infant? Or was it the Conquest Queen Fei Wen Li who paid a heavy price to kill the Supreme Lamp Elder and forced the Supreme Age Elder to imprison herself in the Times Square? The Supreme Guardian of the Dead Sea glared at Sky Chariot angrily. His huge eyes were burning with raging flames. Stupid guy, do you still not understand? The one who played you in the palm of his hand is the traitor of Tong Tian Tower that you've never looked at, Dong Feng. You thought that he was a pitiful ant, but you've been played by this ant until your head was dizzy and you still haven't woken up. This is you, the arrogant supreme heavenly chariot. This is the price you have to pay for your arrogance. Dong Feng. When Sky Chariot heard this name, he finally felt that something was wrong. What did Dong Feng do? The demon dragon was also confused. Something's wrong. Wasn't Dong Feng the most notorious traitor in the history of Tong Tian Tower? Why would the supreme guardian of the Dead Sea say that he played Sky Chariot in the palm of his hand? Shui Wuxia, who led Inan, Yu Bing and the others to hide behind the wall of size, suddenly stood up and explained respectfully, Senior Dong Feng, we always thought that he was a traitor of Tong Tian Tower. However, after entering the Dead Sea and learning of his will hidden in the deepest part of the Dead Sea, we finally understood that he was not a traitor of Tong Tian Tower, but a great spy who was willing to bear the infamy of 10,000 years. What? Hearing this explanation, Sky Chariot felt that it was unbelievable. Dong Feng was actually a spy. How was this possible? He was a super demon who would do anything in order to fall into Tong Tian Tower's trap. He killed countless warriors of Tong Tian Tower with his own hands or by plotting against them. Even the most outstanding genius warrior of Tong Tian Tower before the birth of Titan Yu, Prison Emperor Zanfeng, died under his schemes. This evil person who slaughtered his own kind and stained his hands with countless blood was actually a spy. Senior Dong Feng, he is a spy, the biggest spy of Tong Tian Tower in the Heaven Realm. Shui Wuxia revealed the ultimate secret of Tong Tian Tower that no one knew or guessed for 10,000 years. In order to revive Tong Tian Tower, Senior Dong Feng sacrificed everything in his life and bore the infamy that no one could bear. Everything he's done is for today. Who can prove this? Supreme Elder Qihong's heart wavered, but he quickly regained his calmness and questioned. Senior Wu Shuang, Peerless Emperor, and Senior Prison Emperor Zanfeng. Shui Wuxia pointed at the Dead Sea. In the Dead Sea, in the will of Dong Feng, there are the divine wills left by the two seniors, Emperor Wu Shuangxi and Prison Emperor Zanfeng. They can prove that everything Dong Feng did was for the sake of planning, for today's destined duel. Even so what? Sky Chariot was furious. It was just Dong Feng. It didn't matter if he was a traitor or a spy. What was the use of planning? Could he fight on behalf of Titan Yu? Or could he allow Titan Yu to stand up again and reverse the situation? Dong Feng was good, he didn't care at all. He was just a weak ant. How could he destroy the destined duel between the Holy Supreme Elders with just him? He wasn't qualified. This is you, the arrogant Supreme Elder Sky Chariot of the Temple, this is you. Without waiting for Shui Wuxia to speak, the Guardian of the Dead Sea roared angrily, if you could pay attention to every opponent, even if it was an ant, you wouldn't let your guard down. This farce wouldn't have happened at all. However, because of your arrogance, you ignored Dong Feng. You, who believed in power, let him use crazy sacrifice and cunning intelligence to plot against you. You should reflect on yourself, Sky Chariot. You should really reflect on yourself. That way, you wouldn't be so confused that you didn't even know that you made a mistake. Made a mistake? Sky Chariot's expression suddenly turned ugly. He looked at Yue Yang who was slowly crawling up from the ground and said in disbelief, you're saying that the opponent in the destined duel isn't Titan Yu, but his master, Conquest Queen Fei Wenli. Wrong. The Guardian of the Dead Sea roared, you still don't understand. Your real opponent is her. The Guardian of the Dead Sea pointed with his big hand. The person he pointed at. It was a mysterious woman who rose from the Dead Sea. She was dressed in strange clothes and her face was covered with a light veil. 3 beautiful flowers that couldn't be described with words surrounded her body and slowly rotated. The fragrance they emitted instantly purified the frenzied resentful spirits in the Dead Sea. They immediately turned from resentful cursed spirits into weeping, repentant spirits. Their tears turned into a bloody rain that poured down, causing the Dead Sea to boil once again. What? Sky Chariot looked at this mysterious woman and realized that she wasn't in his information at all. Who was she? She inherited the ancient will of the balanced scale world in the sacred mountain and the Dead Sea. She also obtained the recognition of countless seniors. She's definitely your other choice in the destined duel. The Guardian of the Dead Sea told Sky Chariot. If he made a mistake, the consequences would be dire. Impossible. If it's her, then what about Titan Yu? Sky Chariot didn't think that he had 2 opponents, and even less that there were 2 people on the other side of the destined duel. Stupid guy. In the ancient passage, a shadow was slowly moving forward. Her voice was sharper than a knife, piercing into Sky Chariot's eardrums. You still don't understand. You're like an idiot. No wonder you were fooled by those lame Eastern tricks. I really wonder if you've become stupid from practicing martial arts. Where did all your intelligence go? Maybe it's the confidence of having great power and the temptation of becoming a divine sovereign that made your head heat up. That's why you're so complacent and forgetful. Conquest Queen Vivian Li slowly swam out of the ancient passage. She was covered in blood and had thousands of wounds. Her skin couldn't even cover her bones. But the blade in her hand still shone with a cold light. Murderous intent soared to the sky. Seeing her arrival, Sky Chariot's pupils couldn't help but shrink. When Yue Yang saw Queen Vivian Li rushing over, he immediately rushed forward to support her. Now was the best opportunity. If he didn't please her, there wouldn't be such an opportunity next time. So my true opponent in the destined duel is you. Sky Chariot of the Deity Palace looked at the mysterious woman again. His disturbed and chaotic state of mind quickly recovered, and his confidence returned. What ability do you have? To be able to stand in front of me and compete with me for the divine sovereign position. Emperor Wu Shuang is peerless, Conquest Queen Vivian Li, and Prison Emperor Zhan Feng. Let's not talk about these. Just the peerless genius third young master of the Yu clan that only appears once in 10,000 years. What right do you have to replace him and become the future divine sovereign of Tong Tian Tower? Because she's third young master's mother. Her Majesty's voice sounded in the depths of the ancient passage. However, she didn't come alone. With her was fourth mother, whom Yue Yang was most worried about. Behind fourth mother, there was a beautiful figure that Yue Yang had missed for a long time but had never been able to meet. She followed quietly, as obedient as a newly married wife. It was Ming Yu Guang. After parting at the Human Valley, this little girl finally reunited with him today. When Yue Yang looked at her, she mischievously made a face and blinked her beautiful big eyes, almost electrocuting Yue Yang. As for Her Majesty, who was covered in starlight, she was even more mysterious than the Night Empress. If it wasn't for her voice, Yue Yang wouldn't even dare to recognize her. Of course, when Her Majesty said this, Yue Yang couldn't care about anything else. All his attention was focused on the mysterious woman with the 3 flowers around her body. What? She's my mother. She looks very young. She doesn't look like my mother, but more like my sister. The only one to enter the gods' ruins alone in 10,000 years and obtain the recognition of countless seniors in the Times Square, the first to communicate with the Eastern world and obtain the recognition of the Eastern immortal tribe, the first to open the seal, open the heaven stairway, and let the world tree reappear, the first to create the unique life of a legitimate son through the flower of life tree, the first to use supreme wisdom to inherit and contract the divine grimoire of Tong Tian Tower, the first to pass the 10 trials, and at the same time cultivate the legitimate son to become the unique destiny's child, the future Holy Supreme Lord. Do you think she's qualified? Fourth mother held a huge grimoire in her hand. This grimoire was similar to Yue Yang's divine grimoire, but not exactly the same. Qilin girl Bing Yin and little Wen Li had seen it before. This was the divine grimoire, in the ancient space on the 4th floor of Tong Tian Tower that was protected by the divine grimoire law. Tian Yu was stunned. Yu Tai Tan's mother was so powerful, why hadn't he heard of it before? Eastern sect? No, there were also many old guys from Tong Tian Tower. Tian Yu finally understood now. The Eastern sect deliberately created such a big mess to divert his attention. In fact, the divine grimoire was pointing to this Mama Yu, who had been growing up secretly under their full protection. Since the beginning of the battle, the Eastern sect had been misdirecting their target to the genius Yu clan's third young master. He used this to his advantage. He successfully deceived everyone. Do you still remember the prophecy of the divine armament old man? Fei Wen Li sneered, the next Holy Supreme Lord will not be a man from the soaring dragon continent, nor a woman from the demon abyss. You were very happy that it was not Emperor Wu Shuang, peerless, nor me, Fei Wen Li, nor Prison Emperor Zhan Feng. However, you did not expect that the divine armament old man was referring to the woman from Heaven Stairway, the existence that you all neglected. No, the divine armament old man also said, not from Tong Tian Tower. Supreme Elder Yang Heng was anxious. Could it be that the divine armament old man lied to him? That was impossible. He had been friends with him for almost 100,000 years. Furthermore, he did not lie at that time, it was a real divination. What does the last sentence refer to? Fei Wen Li laughed, you will never understand what is going on. You will also never understand why there are two candidates for the Holy Supreme Lord position. However, as the losers, you do not need to understand this. You only need to maintain the idiotic confidence and despair of regret, and then die. If I, Fei Wenli, cannot become the Holy Supreme Lord, of course you cannot. Do you think that you can become the Holy Supreme Lord just because you have power? What a joke! Who did not pay, who did not sacrifice, who did not realize their true self? These are just the basic things. To truly become the Holy Supreme Lord, one must surpass oneself and control one's destiny. You can't even differentiate between enemies and enemies, yet you still want to compete for the position of the Holy Supreme Lord. Aren't you afraid that others will laugh their heads off? The destiny scale, the destiny duel, officially begins now. The mysterious Mama opened her mouth, and her body shone with divine light. The law of the destiny scale whirled. It erupted in an instant. It sublimated thousands of times, forming an invisible but real destiny scale that existed in the form of a law. On one side of the destiny scale was the divine palace's sovereign Tian Yu, and on the other side was the mysterious Mama. Yue Yang, who had rushed over to welcome Fourth Mother, was not one of them. Damn it, if Tian Yu still didn't know that he had made a mistake, then he would really be an idiot. He was extremely angry in his heart, but he still had enough confidence, because according to the comparison of strength, he believed that he was far superior to the mysterious woman in front of him. He was confident that he could defeat his opponent and seize the final victory. The true destiny duel has only begun now, so what? I am stronger than you, and the final victor of this battle will still be me. You are very confident. Yue Yang's mysterious little mama smiled sweetly. However, you will never be my opponent. If I fight with you, it seems like I am bullying you, but since you insist, I will still give you a chance. Tian Yu did not believe it. He felt that this was the enemy's scheme. Want to scare me away? Impossible. I am the Divine Palace's sovereign Tian Yu, the man who will definitely win and become the future Holy Sovereign. On the other side, Fourth Mother first nodded and smiled at Yue Yang. She held the Divine Grimoire and slowly walked towards the battlefield. Sister, the Divine Grimoire has been brought to you. Ah Xian, I have already said that I will give this Divine Grimoire to you. I have my own summoning grimoire, and in the Western Heaven Realm's Golden Divine Palace, I have contracted a new Divine Grimoire. The mysterious little mama waved her hand casually, indicating that she had plenty of divine grimoires. Pooh, not only Boss Mo Long couldn't help but vomit blood on the spot. Even the serious people like His Majesty, Night Empress, and even Fei Wenli couldn't bear it anymore. Damn, this mother and son are both abnormal. Her son had at least 3 grimoires, each stronger than the last, which was enough to make people feel despair. This little mama who looked like a little sister was also abnormal. She had at least 2, and one of them was even the divine grimoire that others dreamed of. Wasn't abnormal not allowed to enter the same family? Chapter 1392, Since the Fate Duel has officially begun, let's go. Changqi had been familiarizing himself with controlling his demonic power. He had just gained immense power. He needed time. However, once he familiarized himself with it, he immediately rushed towards Tantai Tu Mie. Scarlet Warden Tantai Tu Mie, let's fight again. Supreme Jin and the demonic emperor flanked him from both sides. Facing a super strong enemy, they no longer cared about fighting one-on-one. Even if they unsealed their powers and Changqi's current strength, it was already their wish to fight Tantai Tu Mie to a draw. In the temple, I will bury all of you forever. Tantai Tu Mie was no longer as arrogant as he was before. He had seen Changqi's sealing ceremony and Supreme Jin and the demonic emperor's powers unsealed. The unsealing of Supreme Jin and the demon god's powers had already caused his heart to tremble. Changqi, whom he had not taken seriously at first, had undergone an earth-shattering transformation. If it had not been for the help of the Divine Hall's laws, he really did not have the confidence to kill these 3 losers. Fei Wenli, do you still have the strength to fight? Supreme Qihong was determined to kill the Conqueror Queen who could change the tide of the battle. What a joke! Queen Vivian Li raised the battle blade in her hand. Her supreme will was not to be challenged. Moreover, her path to the heavens was destined to be built on the corpses of her enemies, whether it was the previous Supreme Lamp or the current Supreme Qihong. Sky Chariot's expression was calm, but his eyes were on the Guardian of the Dead Sea. The Guardian of the Dead Sea had criticized him harshly, but Sky Chariot still hoped to gain this super strong expert's full support. As long as the guardian of the Dead Sea gave his all, no matter what kind of enemy, including the peerless Emperor Wu Shuang, they would all fall at his feet. This was the supreme guardian of the Dead Sea that no expert could deny. Kill. Without waiting for the guardian of the Dead Sea to say anything, Yue Yang had already made the decision for him. Yue Yang soared into the sky, his sovereign's will breaking free from the heavenly chariot's divine palace's seal that covered the entire Libra world. All of his power condensed into a sword, and he chopped down at Sovereign Qihong, who was fighting with Fei Wenli. On the other side, the illusory moon goddess, Shui Wuxia, and the others had all unleashed their full strength. They cooperated tacitly and gathered as one to attack this honorable Qihong, who was heavily injured and on the verge of death, but whose strength could still look down on all living beings. Paragon Qihong took the attack head-on and forced Yue Yang and the others back. However, he also coughed up a mouthful of blood. Clowns, go to hell. Seeing Paragon Qihong vomit blood, Heavencharger was enraged. He extended his hand. 3,600 beams of divine light shot out from his body. Every beam of divine light with terrifying power shot out like a spear towards every enemy in the surroundings. At the same time, the heavenly net law tightened, strangling all the enemies entangled in it and suffocating them. Thanks to Heavencharger's will, the countless divine palaces also spewed out billions of rays of light, forming various divine power vortexes that engulfed every enemy trapped in the heavenly net. In his fury, Heavencharger, the divine palace's sovereign, unleashed his full strength. He even regretted it. Afterwards, he felt that he shouldn't have killed all the enemies at once, because that would be too boring. Due to all sorts of twists and turns in this predestined duel, he should have tortured his enemies to death one by one, letting each of their souls repent in his hands, wail in pain, and beg for death. Only then would he be able to vent his hatred. As for the tricks that the clown from the east deliberately played, it was just a joke. He wanted to use his strongest power to show him what the true way of the king was. Be it the upper realm or the lower realm, only strength was respected in this world. Flying flowers. The mysterious little mother snapped her fingers. The 3,600 beams of divine light shot out of Heavencharger's body, as well as the divine power vortexes formed by the heavenly net and the divine palace law, instantly turned into petals that filled the sky. The three sky-reaching clan's warriors who were almost killed instantly felt their bodies lighten, and all recovered from suffocation. Those who were previously injured, in the rain of petals, they recovered rapidly, and the injuries on their bodies healed automatically, as if they had absorbed the source of life. Fatty Hai, Yi Kong, and the other exhausted warriors stood up one after another, their strength gushing out like an underground volcano, inexhaustible. This is the power of creation. Sovereign Qihong understood. If Heavencharger had a stronger destruction, then his opponent, the young lady, had a stronger creation. Although her attack power wasn't strong, her creativity had reached an unimaginable and wonderful realm. Even the enemy's destruction could be turned into her own creation. Moreover, it was a creation that was like a source of life. It would be of great help to the three clans of the Tong Tian Tower. Seeing this, Sovereign Qihong didn't dare to be careless anymore, and hurriedly shouted at the stunned Heavencharger, "Don't worry about us, you only need to be in charge of the predestined duel. Your victory is the most important. Heavencharger, get rid of your anger, maintain your rationality, and increase your creation in the midst of destruction. Use the divine palace law to maintain your power, and use the supreme will to drive your divine power. Don't be disturbed by the enemy. The enemy is good at illusions, so you must maintain your absolute self." Understood. Heavencharger had been guided by Sovereign Qihong's wisdom all his life, and when Sovereign Qihong revealed the truth, he immediately regained his confidence and rationality. "You actually don't understand anything," the mysterious little mother smiled sweetly and shook her head. Heavencharger was about to punch. He suddenly realized that he was already in a garden. The garden wasn't big, but the grass was everywhere, flowers were blooming, butterflies were dancing, and naughty birds were jumping and chirping on the branches. Looking up, there were white clouds, and the blue sky was clear. The whole world was incomparably fresh. The mysterious little mother stood in front of him. She didn't look like a seated contestant in the predestined duel, but more like a young girl playing happily under the sun. A dream-like illusion. Break. Heavencharger guessed that this was a dream, like Princess Yi Meng. Heavencharger's divine power was like a tide. It was enough to collapse mountains and seas. But it hit the garden, but it didn't itch or hurt, just a drizzle. Heavencharger didn't believe it and released another wave of divine power. Tens of thousands of divine light enveloped the entire Libra world, but in the end, it turned into a light breeze. The little mother waved her hand. Your killing power is far above your creation, Heavencharger. Of the temple, you care too much about your power. You can't go far if you walk on one foot. You may have worked hard and paid a lot, but unfortunately, your efforts are in the wrong direction. Shut up. Heavencharger tried his best to suppress his anger and let reason return to his heart. Is this the legendary South Divergence? Yue Yang asked curiously. Yes. His Majesty nodded. I've said it before, his efforts can't catch up to yours, because his direction is wrong, and he has completely embarked on a path of no return. Shui Wuxia sighed slightly. With his talent, he should have achieved even more, but for some reason, perhaps because of the misdirection of the East, the direction of this path has unknowingly taken a wrong turn. 10,000 years of bitter cultivation and countless sacrifices in exchange for unparalleled power, it's really regrettable. Everyone should take this as a warning, this is the biggest lesson. Heavencharger's eyes were about to spit fire, but he was still rational. No matter what you say, don't even think of shaking my will. Whether it's an illusion or a dream, it's all just an illusion to my eyes. I will definitely win this fated battle, everything you've done is useless. Well said, fool, the demon dragon applauded vigorously. Fool, Changqi followed closely behind. Ha, I'm just a fool, don't ask me how stupid I am, my bitter cultivation for 10,000 years was all for naught. Fatty Hai wretchedly twisted his big butt, this kind of disgusting behavior even his companions couldn't bear. Yi Kong quietly picked up his rod and prepared to put this fellow down, but who knew that the wind-breath seabird was faster and struck Fatty Hai's head with lightning, waiting for the mountain of flesh demon king to turn into charcoal before kicking this worm to the ends of the earth. Seeing that Heavencharger was trapped in his opponent's flower array and couldn't escape, Supreme Xianxia hurriedly asked for help from the Guardian of the Dead Sea. Let's work together and kill Titan Yu. However, the Guardian of the Dead Sea was no longer as confident as Supreme Xianxia. His expression was solemn. Supreme Xianxia nodded slightly and said, I need another ball of God light. If the 3 God lights are ineffective, then my power will end here. Tian Qi, perhaps you have it too. This is especially obvious in my heart, it's a very bad premonition. Although you and I have already understood life and death, there are some things in this world that transcend life and death. Do you understand what I mean? I understand. Supreme Xianxia glanced at Heavencharger who was still attacking in the garden, trying to break through the bewildering barrier, and a hint of determination appeared at the corner of his lips. This is the path we chose in the past, we have all walked this path and put in all our effort. Now, it's already impossible to turn back, we can only continue forward. Then I wish you good luck, Tian Qi. The Guardian of the Dead Sea nodded. Thank you. A ball of God light appeared on Supreme Xianxia's forehead. It was white, clean, and had a natural light of wisdom. After releasing the white God light from his soul, Supreme Xianxia seemed to have gone through an extremely difficult battle. He was drenched in sweat, and at the same time, the light of wisdom in his eyes dimmed. Holding this small ball of God light with great care, Supreme Xianxia was a little reluctant, but also a little determined. He suddenly threw it to the Guardian of the Dead Sea, and the Guardian of the Dead Sea solemnly received it. He held it in his palm. The red and gold balls of God light around his body fused with the white. In an instant, the entire Tian Ping world was divided into 3 colors. The 2 sides of the sky were red and gold, while the center was white. The Guardian of the Dead Sea, who had a body of 60,000 meters, placed the 3-colored God light on his forehead, and drew out a ball of burning God fire from his divine throne, letting it burn below the 3-colored God light. 3-colored God light. Student Yue Yang drooled as he watched. After waiting for so many days, he finally saw the other 3-colored God light. Although it was still in the enemy's hands. However, after fusing the 5-colored God light into one, he would definitely be safe. The thing that belongs to me, I must take it back. While Yue Yang was still daydreaming, a giant hand appeared in the sky, pressing down on his head with a rumbling sound. At this time, whether it was Fei Wenli, His Majesty, or the Jizun who had rushed back to the battlefield, none of them could stop the attack of the Guardian of the Dead Sea Jizun. 3-colored God light, he blocked all of their attacks. At the periphery of the God light, Princess Sissy and the others could not even break through the God light and enter the battle circle to resist the Guardian of the Dead Sea with Yue Yang. In another corner of the battlefield, With the help of the temple's law, the Scarlet Warden Tantai Tu Mie's giant fist was like the sun in the sky, forcing Changqi, Jindi, and Yao Di to retreat. Tian Tu Mie and Tian Tu Mie also fought against Tian Zhu. The blood-colored god power cut Tian Zhu's body black and blue. If not for the divine sword in his hand and the Dragon Emperor's protection, Tian Zhu would have fallen to the ground. The suppression of the temple's law prevented the warriors of the Tong Tian Tower from using even a tenth of their strength. Even Fatty Hai, Yi Kong and the others were in a tough battle. Shui Tan Lang and Prince of Tian Luo exploded with fire and ice. They struggled to hold on. Fortunately, Yue Yang had bestowed divine emblems on the warriors of the 3 clans of Tong Tian, which matched them with limitless divine power. It was equivalent to having a divine throne, and they could continuously use the divine power from Yue Yang's divine throne to sustain their own lives. Titan Yu, is this all you've got? The guardian of the Dead Sea's giant hand had already enveloped Yue Yang's head. He will be the key to the battle. The heavily injured guardian of Qi Hang released his greatest god power to suppress Yue Yang's 10,000-meter-tall god body. This allowed the guardian of the Dead Sea to attack with all his strength and kill this young genius of the Tong Tian Tower who was mistaken as another candidate for the Divine Supreme. Paragon Starter had the wisdom of Starter. Although he couldn't completely see through the truth of the entire situation, he had the same premonition as the Paragon Guardian of the Dead Sea. Moreover, his premonition was getting stronger and stronger. He had a feeling that the key to victory lay with this seemingly weak young man. If you don't have any other moves to deal with me, then say your last words. The Guardian of the Dead Sea deeply regretted that he had focused all his attention on the peerless Emperor Wu Shuang. If he had discovered this earlier and killed this young man, perhaps the situation would not have turned out like this. Yue Yang faced the giant palm that was pressing down on him. It was as if he was terrified. He did not move at all. His behavior greatly confused the Guardian of the Dead Sea and Master of Qi Hang. Impossible, this was definitely not the behavior of someone who was about to die. There must be some kind of trick. But now that things had come to this, how could he stop? The heavy palm pressed down with boundless god power. It easily drowned Yue Yang. Successfully killed. The Guardian of Qi Hang hurriedly looked at the expressions of Fei Wenli and the others. Fei Wenli, the proud queen of conquest, was expressionless. He could not see anything. Princess Yi Meng was shining under the starlight, so he could not see anything. Then he looked at the mysterious, little mother, who was suppressing Tianyu in the garden. She was said to be Titan Yu's mother. Her face was covered with a light veil, but her big eyes that could speak carried a sweet smile. There was not a trace of the pain of losing a son. Finally, he looked at Titan Yu's wives. Their expressions were normal. They did not look like they had lost their husbands at all. It's a trap. Autarch Starter let out a frantic roar, and the Death Sea Guardian immediately halted his attacks as well. Ah, how dare you plot against the future Divine Sovereign? An eternal power was born from under the giant palm. Although it was very small, this was an absolute eternal will born from the ancient primal chaos space of the 10th trial. She had been sleeping since she was born. Only when her master was under the greatest threat of his soul being destroyed by god power did she awaken in anger. It was a little doll. As thin as a baby girl. Her body was wrapped by a single ribbon of life. She could not speak at all, but her spiritual will was innately superior to all things. She was born from the ancient primal chaos. Since the day Yue Yang created her, she had an absolute eternal will and an immortal life. The fate divine power in Yue Yang's body, which was sealed by the sword Qi and could not be used, was pulled out by her small hands. If it wasn't for the heavenly sword goddess's seal being too tight, Yue Yang, who still had a lot of room for improvement, would have instantly raised her cultivation to the Great Success Realm, the Holy Supreme Elder Realm. Her potential would have been completely awakened, and her realm would have reached the highest peak of cultivation. The destiny divine power that was as vast as the sea, even if only a small part of it was unsealed, made Yue Yang undergo a complete transformation. Although Yue Yang was still unable to use all of the destiny divine power, a gap had already been opened in his body. Or perhaps, it was a door. A sealed door that Yue Yang had never been able to open before. He did not need to awaken the destiny giant. He did not need the destiny divine weapon. That way, he would be able to use as much divine power of destiny as he wished. Oh no, it was too late for Sovereign Qihong to regret now. He realized that his divine throne had been shattered by the angry little doll's ribbon of life. His soul was shocked, and he almost fainted. Danger. On the other side, the guardian of the Dead Sea was in an even worse state after being attacked by the absolute eternal will. His 60,000-meter tall body fell to the ground with a loud bang. His protective divine equipment, divine armor, and divine weapon all exploded. Fortunately, he had the tricolor divine light. He protected his soul. Otherwise, this attack would have been an eternal annihilation. This little baby is so powerful. Bao clapped her hands heartlessly. Other than her, everyone else was shocked, including Yue Yang. He did not expect that the she he created would have such terrifying power. He did not resist just now because he was waiting for the heavenly sword goddess to unseal or Koki no Koki's sword chi fusion to help. He did not expect the heavenly sword goddess to restrain herself, but this sleeping little girl woke up angrily and even beat up the two supreme sovereigns. Is this really not a dream? After defeating the two supreme sovereigns, the little girl yawned cutely, turned into a beautiful ray of eternal light, and returned to Yue Yang's soul to rest. Mo Long and the others' eyeballs almost dropped to the ground. If they knew that there was such a powerful guardian, why did they still protect Yue Yang? Wouldn't it be better to push him out and let him be beaten to death? Boss Mo Long hated himself for being so stupid. If he had pushed Yue Yang out when the guardian of the Dead Sea was intercepted, the little girl would have exploded earlier, and there would not be such a bitter battle today. The Peerless Emperor might not have died. Of course, if the Peerless Emperor did not die, he might not have been able to become Yue Yang's boss. Forget it. It's better this way. Mo Long thought about it and felt that it was more suitable for him to be the boss. You're already a holy sovereign. Sovereign Qihong looked at Yue Yang as if he had seen a ghost. It seems so. Yue Yang was familiarizing himself with the fate power of Riot. Because he had released too much fate power, although it was temporary, it was not easy to control. You're already a holy sovereign. Why are you still fighting with us for the future holy sovereign? Sovereign Qihong felt like he was going to go crazy. You're clearly a holy sovereign already, yet you're still running over here to fight against Heavenly Chariot, pretending to be on the other side of the future holy sovereign. Why you're just trying to scam me to death. Furthermore, after fighting for so long, you've been pretending to be a weakling, allowing others to bully you. Is this really something a holy sovereign should do? I have my own difficulties. Yue Yang was very sincere. Indeed, if not for the heavenly sword goddess's seal, he would have already ascended and left the heaven realm. You can't hurt a guy from another world who has already leveled up but is unable to use his true strength. Furthermore, whether this young master is a candidate or not, isn't that up to you? I didn't say a single word, nor did I admit it from the start. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame that Dongfang fellow for being too cunning. He was the one who tricked you into running around in circles. If you want to settle accounts, go find him. But he's already dead. He committed suicide in the sky above the Dead Sea. Not even a speck of him was left. That's what happened. I'm just following your wishes and cooperating with you. I'm just a free volunteer. Yue Yang's explanation caused Sovereign Qihong and Sovereign Guardian of the Dead Sea to have the urge to vomit blood. How did things turn out like this? Sovereign Qihong's biggest regret was accepting the traitor of Tong Tian Tower, Dongfang, into the central shrine. You guys can slowly settle accounts with Dongfang, but settle mine first. I'm in a bit of a hurry. Yue Yang touched his face. My face, as a holy sovereign, has been punched countless times by your sky chariot, causing me to vomit countless amounts of blood. Now, isn't it time to settle accounts? No matter what, I'm still a holy sovereign. What would happen if I don't retaliate or scold back? I'll definitely be a bad role model for the kids, so I want to say, I've tolerated you guys for a long time. Not good. The guardian of the Dead Sea was shocked, but not because of Yue Yang's outburst, but because he heard a heavenly sound. A heavenly sound that resonated in the soul. Two balls of flames. They appeared from an unknown place in the sky. In an instant, they turned into two Nirvana flames phoenixes. They rushed into the guardian of the Dead Sea's tricolored divine light, their seven-colored tails carrying the tricolored divine light, circled 3 times in the void, and then landed on Yue Yang's shoulder with phoenix cries. Yue Yang had a stroke of luck, and summoned the black and green divine lights, at the same time igniting the Nirvana pillar that soared to the sky. The Phoenix sisters circled around the pillar, and the tricolored divine light and the sealed bicolored divine light all entered it. Finally, there was a loud rumble. Around the Nirvana pillar, red, gold, green, black, and white divine lights shot into the sky. Yue Yang was so excited that he almost let out a long roar. Suddenly, from the depths of his soul, a familiar sword chi faintly came out. In Yue Yang's hands, 7 sword chis immediately erupted: black Gui Kang, white Shuanghua, Kai Shaolian, orange Hongguang, Wang Lung Yuan, green Jade Wave, and green Taiyuan. The majesty of the divine sword shook the heavens and the earth. In the instant that Yue Yang's mind was clear, he seemed to see the figure of the heavenly sword goddess. The last 2 swords that he had never used before, Blue Sea and Purple Star, also soared into the sky, gushing out into the sky. The 9 swords merged into one. The balanced world seemed to have been redivided, and the laws were re-established, turning into chaos. Perhaps only a second had passed, or perhaps it had been 1,000 years, or 10,000 years. When Yue Yang's mind left, the 9 swords had already disappeared without a trace. The Nirvana pillar disappeared, and the Phoenix sisters who were originally flying around the pillar also disappeared. In the sky, there was only the 5-colored divine light left, soft like feathers. All the divine lights were brand new. They were not the same. They were also one. 5 into 1. The guardian of the Dead Sea stretched out his hand towards the 5-colored divine light, but they floated away from his huge palm and gently descended on the top of Yue Yang's head, entering his divine throne. Chapter 1393. The 5-colored divine light had finally fused into one. Under the will of its new master, Yue Yang, charging into the sky, turning into a unique rainbow. With the help of Nirvana flame and invisible sword chi, under the illumination of the moon of destiny, it returned to eternity. The sovereign of the temple and the guardian of the Dead Sea looked at each other in shock. Even the strongest 5-colored holy light couldn't do anything, and was even captured and transformed by the enemy. Are we really going to die in this battle? No, I will never admit defeat. The battle on the other side had ended. Little Mother had personally released Tian Yu. Tian Yu, who had escaped from the garden, was still confident. His will only wavered for a second before returning to normal. He still had unparalleled divine power. In the garden, he didn't defeat his opponent, but he wasn't injured either. He was sure that it was just a blurry dream that didn't affect him at all. The guardian of the Dead Sea, who had lost his strongest battle power, remained silent. Such was fate. How could a human be able to reverse it? Moreover, Titan Yu was the future holy sovereign. No matter if he admitted it or denied it, it was an unchangeable fact. With his current strength, even with Tian Yu, how could he kill a holy sovereign? No, it was impossible. Not to mention killing him, even being defeated in battle was impossible. That was a heavenly moat that could not be crossed. Titan Yu's fate had long been decided, and was completely in his hands. As for his and Tian Yu's fate, it was still unknown. Just this alone was already a crushing defeat. All of you, die. Queen Vivian Li, who was holding a blade dripping with blood, pointed at the enemy and coldly declared her judgment. In front of her, Sovereign Qihong, Tian Yu, had already fallen, heavily injured and on the verge of death. Sovereign Qihong had already tried his best, but he really couldn't fight against the conquering queen's blade. He struggled for a while, and slowly climbed up from the pool of blood. Using the last of his strength, he raised his head and looked at Tian Yu. Don't give up, Tian Yu, you must always maintain your confidence. You are also one of the contestants in the battle between the Holy Sovereign, so you must believe in yourself. You are also the best. I am your teacher, I am willing to do anything for you. After saying that, from his body, a kind of divine power that gave up everything in life, including his soul, was released. It formed a small ball of divine light filled with wisdom. He floated towards Tian Yu. The smile on Supreme Starter Tian Chi's face vanished before it could even appear. Not even dust was left behind. It was as if a person like the sailing Supreme Exalt Tian Chi had never existed in this world. He had vanished without a trace. Tian Yu closed his eyes with an incomparable heartache. First, it was the Radiant Guardian Sovereign, and now it was the Sailing Sovereign. One teacher after another, they were sacrificed one after another. In the end, he was the only one left. Could it be that this is the price to advance into the Divine Exalt realm? Could this be the necessary process to become a Holy Exalt? After sacrificing so much, why couldn't he defeat the enemy and reach the goal of his dreams? He reached out his hand and gently grasped the divine light of wisdom in his palm. He slowly absorbed it. When the divine light of wisdom that contained the divine power of setting sail completely disappeared, it also meant that another teacher, in order to help him reach the peak, would forever disappear from his life. Sky Chariot roared at the sky. He, who had completely absorbed the divine power of departure, had gained new enlightenment in terms of intelligence. Whether it was his divine power or his intelligence, he had taken a huge leap forward. Right now, he was at the peak of his life. Sky Chariot even felt that he was only a hair's breadth away from the divine exalt realm. The final victor is I, Sky Chariot. Only I, Sky Chariot, have the qualifications to ascend to the divine exalt realm. Only I am the destined one. Sky Chariot now had no doubt that he could defeat the enemy. This wasn't just the confidence that came from his strength, but also the confirmation that came from the sublimation of his intelligence. He even felt that he had sacrificed too much for the divine exalt realm. Now, it was finally time to reap the rewards. Everything had become a natural process. Yes, he had regained his confidence. No matter who Titan Yu was, no matter who his opponent was, he now maintained the strongest and most unshakable confidence. Could Titan Yu represent his mother? No, this was a predestined battle between him and her. No one could interfere. Come, let's fight again. The current me already has higher intelligence and greater power. This time, your creation will not be of any use. Sky Chariot reached out to Little Mother and made a gesture of invitation. This battle is completely meaningless. However, as long as you persevere, I will still give you a chance. The Little Mother sighed, as if she was watching a drowning person struggling deeper into the water, but she was powerless to save him. She waved her hand, signaling Yue Yang, Ji Zun, Fei Wenli and the others to step back. She decided to fight alone, and let Tian Yu, who had regained his confidence, completely give up. Sky Chariot unleashed his strongest divine power. Divine power spread out like a heavenly net. It covered every inch of space in the balanced scale world. Even the sand and water droplets were all under his control. Divine light burst forth from the millions of temples. Each temple bestowed him with a unique existence and unique law, greatly increasing the power of Sky Chariot's divine power. Ha! Sky Chariot swung his fist. A heavy punch filled with confidence. Divine light shot out like a pillar towards Little Mother opposite him. More than half of the balanced scale world was destroyed by this all-penetrating divine light. Even someone as strong as the guardian of the Dead Sea hurriedly distanced himself from the center of the great destruction. Yue Yang and the phantom moon goddess raised the eternal moon together. Only then could they protect the women. His Majesty and the Night Empress looked at the battlefield worriedly. Under this unparalleled divine power attack, what happened to Little Mother? Ji Zun and Queen Vivian Li looked at each other. Even they were not sure. Sky Chariot's punch just now had far exceeded their expectations. Sky Chariot, who had obtained all the wisdom and divine power of Qihong, had indeed grown to an immeasurable and terrifying realm. The smoke dissipated. In the center of the ruins where the law of the balanced scale world was slowly recovering, there was a figure floating safely. Everything on her body was still intact. This kind of unexpected discovery. Even Yue Yang could not believe it. How is this possible? Sky Chariot's eyes widened. No matter how powerful you are, as long as you choose the wrong target and punch towards the sky, you will not be able to hit the starlight in the sky, even if it covers the entire universe. You and I are not in the same realm at all. Standing on the ground, you may be able to overturn rivers and seas, but you don't know that you can't even lift your feet off the ground. Little Mother shook her head and sighed. Not only can I soar in the sky, I can also roam in the starry sky, from one world to another. Your fist will never hit me. This fated battle was originally a battle of wits and realms, but you gave up on those and chose power. It was equivalent to abandoning gold and jade and choosing sand. So, from the moment you made your choice, the result was already decided. No, don't even think of shaking my mind. Sky Chariot felt that this might be a trick of the enemy. Even if she dodged this punch, she would not be able to dodge the next one. I think, perhaps you have been misled by some kind of power, or perhaps, from the beginning until now, you have been under this kind of misdirection at all times, including Dongfang and your teachers. Every single one of them, whether intentionally or inadvertently, played a role. Little Mother guessed. Any words are useless, only power is my eternal. Dongfang would not believe the enemy's words. This guy is crazy. Yue Yang finally understood. Sky Chariot had already dug his way into a dead end. Any rational person could see the problem, but he just did not believe it. Or perhaps, Sky Chariot also had his doubts, but his power was too great, and in a desperate situation, he continued to believe in power, so he became stubborn, digging his way into a dead end and not coming out. The guardian of the Dead Sea Sovereign sighed. The battle is over, it's over. Sky Chariot angrily stopped him. No, it's not over, we still have power, we still have the power to continue fighting, persevere, as long as we continue to persevere, continue to fight, then victory will definitely be ours. You are a sovereign, your mind cannot be disturbed by the enemy, we still have the advantage, why should we give up? No, we should continue to work hard, and never give up. I'm tired. The guardian of the Dead Sea Sovereign's eyes dimmed. I'm really tired, no, don't be like this. Sky Chariot roared, perhaps eternal rest is not a bad idea, I'm starting to understand now, why the seniors gave up, chose eternal rest, because they also went through the same process, so they made the same choice. We are just repeating the path that the seniors once walked, repeating the journey that they once walked in their lives. The guardian of the Dead Sea Sovereign had already seen through the essence. Don't even think about being a deserter, no, you can't leave like this, I will not allow it. Sky Chariot roared angrily, his fists, like raindrops, smashing towards the guardian of the Dead Sea Sovereign who was about to enter eternal rest. Sky Chariot, in such a desperate moment, actually swung his fists at his comrade. The guardian of the Dead Sea Sovereign's body swayed, his huge divine body tottering under Sky Chariot's attack. If before, his strength could be said to be firmly above Sky Chariot, after the Guardian of Light and the Guardian of Qihong completely dedicated themselves, Sky Chariot's strength had already surpassed this super expert whose divine body reached 60,000 meters tall. Boom 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 boom, the divine body shattered. But the Guardian of the Dead Sea Sovereign didn't dodge, didn't even try to resist, and took Sky Chariot's furious attack head-on. The soaring flames on the divine throne behind him gradually extinguished, not only because of Sky Chariot's attack, but also because of the Guardian of the Dead Sea Sovereign's will of eternal rest. He would rather die at the hands of his comrade than fight again. Why? Sky Chariot couldn't understand at all. I'm tired. The Guardian of the Dead Sea Sovereign's eyes were filled with exhaustion. We still have strength, Sky Chariot roared angrily. Yes, but what does strength alone mean? The peerless emperor was peerless, and his strength was not inferior to mine, but he didn't fight me, and instead chose to carry the sacred mountain to fill up the sea, and died in front of me. The Guardian of the Dead Sea Sovereign looked back at the sacred mountain. Back then, I was just like you, very confused. But now I understand, power doesn't mean everything, only wisdom is eternal. He didn't fight me because he understood this. So, he chose to fight in another way, he defeated me long ago, with his wisdom. And only now do I understand. Eternal rest isn't a bad choice. Yue Yang felt that it would take a lot of effort to defeat the Guardian of the Dead Sea Sovereign. Now that the Guardian of the Dead Sea was in eternal rest, Yue Yang was happy to stop fighting. I really envy the peerless emperor. The Guardian of the Dead Sea Sovereign looked at the sacred mountain. He stretched out his hand. His action seemed to be inviting the enemy to fight again. But from Yue Yang's point of view, it was more like a form of respect. In his life, it is so wonderful. No matter what, there was always someone who worried about him, who missed him. Even in death, they stayed together, not like me, lonely and lonely. The Guardian of the Dead Sea Sovereign was very envious of the love between the peerless emperor and the flower fairy. He looked up at the sky and sighed, at least you were once in love, so vigorous and vigorous. As for me, I have nothing, Zhang, you are not lonely. Suddenly, a god, whose power and realm surpassed the Guardian of the Dead Sea in all aspects, descended upon the Dead Sea. His divine body was 80,000 meters long. The Guardian of the Dead Sea Sovereign, whose divine body was 60,000 meters tall, was like a small person compared to this god. They couldn't be compared at all. The face and body of the god, who had an 80,000 meter tall divine body, were no different from the Guardian of the Dead Sea. They were like twin brothers in the world. Appearance, exactly the same. Go back with me, my little brother. Zhang, you are not lonely, you are never lonely. The 80,000 meter tall god stretched out his hand and caressed the head of the Guardian of the Dead Sea Sovereign, his face emitting a kind divine light. Chapter 1394, Please don't touch my head anymore. I'm not a kid anymore. My life is up to me. Please don't use your will to interfere with my decision, okay? Whether it's right or wrong, it's my choice. The Dead Sea Guardian looked up at his brother with a solemn expression. Since the day I left, I've decided not to go back. There's no need for two identical lives in the upper heaven realm. I must have my own life, my own home. Zhang, the two of us are similar, but we're not the same. You have your own life and your freedom. No one can deny that. Furthermore, there's nothing bad about our birth. Back then, countless lives envied us for being the same. Zhang, my beloved brother, I've never interfered with your will. I'm even more unwilling to do so. As for you, I like you from the bottom of my heart. No matter what you do, I respect you. You know that, the 80,000-meter tall she advised gently. You've been away from home for too long. Let's go back. As long as you take a step back and stop being so stubborn, we'll be able to return to where we belong. If I could take a step back, I would have done so long ago. The Dead Sea Guardian shook his head. I don't want to go back either. I'm not your shadow. I belong to myself. Zhang, you're not my shadow. You've never been. A pained expression appeared on Zai's face. This is the wrong prejudice of outsiders. No matter what, it's the truth. The Dead Sea Guardian smiled. It's fine. I'm not as outstanding as you and I don't have your comprehension. After so many years, I've already seen through it and don't care about what others think. However, I won't go back with you. This place belongs to me, not that so-called home in the upper heaven realm. This is where I belong. Why? A perplexed look appeared on Zai's face. Why are you always so extreme and stubborn? Because you're not me. The guardian paragon of the Dead Sea stretched out his hand towards she and waved. His entire being seemed to have been liberated as he turned and walked towards the Dead Sea. Goodbye, my elder brother. You are a good elder brother, but that is not what I need the most. As your younger brother, what I need is freedom and independence. I should have my whole life and not be someone else's shadow. Turn back. It's not too late to turn back now. Golden tears flowed down from Zai's eyes. I have never regretted my choice. The upper half of the Guardian of the Dead Sea slowly sank into the Dead Sea. The divine fire burning on the divine throne was slowly extinguishing. Thank you for accompanying me through such a strange life. My elder brother, the expert I respect the most in my heart. Goodbye. She closed his eyes in sorrow. The guardian paragon of the Dead Sea gave up everything. The divine power dissipated. In the end, he sealed his life and soul in the abyss of the Dead Sea and fell into eternal slumber, turning into an eternal but lonely stone. Zai's 80,000-meter tall body shed golden tears like rain, dripping onto the Dead Sea. If he wanted to, he moved to stop them. Her brother wouldn't have ended up like this. However, he respected his younger brother's choice. Even if his younger brother chose to leave alone, as the elder brother, he could only reluctantly send him off. She shook his head and let out a long sigh. He raised his hand to greet little mother and Yue Yang. I have no intention of interfering with the duel between you two. On the contrary, I respect the result of the fated duel. No matter what, the various races in the upper heaven realm will gladly accept it. As soon as he finished speaking, Yue Yang, whose heart was hanging in the air, heaved a sigh of relief. The guardian paragon of the Dead Sea was already hard enough. With his elder brother here, it was hard to say. Fortunately, on the other side, she bowed towards the ancient passageway again. He greeted old man Fan River, who was hopping around with a fishing basket on his back and a fishing rod in his hand. Senior, this private matter has been settled. She will take his leave first. Go. Old man Fan River waved his hand indifferently. This old man came here to discuss fishing with that mischievous brat. It has nothing to do with you. Who wants to discuss fishing with you? Yue Yang was furious when he heard this. As a senior, if he couldn't fight, you would help him fight. Now that the duel was over, you actually came here to discuss fishing. Do you know how dangerous it was just now? Old man Fan River was not angry. You don't have time, I will wait for you. I am not in a hurry. Little girl, you are here too. It's fine, you can busy yourself. I am mainly looking for that brat. She turned into a ray of divine light and left. Tianyu's heart that had originally lit up with a glimmer of hope was instantly filled with disappointment. A super strong god-level expert, and the older brother of the guardian paragon of the Dead Sea. He was extremely powerful, but he did not come to help him. Not only that, Titan Yu also came with an unreliable senior helper. Although he did not look strong, he was still an old senior. If they were to fight later, it might be a little troublesome. Life sacrifice. Just as the battle was paused, Scarlet Warden Tantai Tu Mie shouted. Thousands of blood blades pierced out from his body. Then, they twisted crazily. The moment before his body was crushed, Tantai Tu Mie shouted at Tianyu, Lord Temple Paragon, this is a trap. The enemy has already set everything up. There is no point in staying here. Please break free from the fate laws and leave through your own life passage. The loyal Tantai Tu Mie used his own blood and life to tear open a spatial crack in the balance world. Although it was far from the ancient passage that the guardian paragon of light had painstakingly built. But this crack obtained in exchange for life. It could temporarily break free from the fate laws of the balance world. You are courting death. Tantai Tu Mie's actions angered Queen Vivian Li. She slashed with her war blade, the destruction power pierced through the sky and struck Tantai Tu Mie's soul. Tianyu finger, the divine light was like a spear, deflecting the destruction power that was shaped like a war blade. Her other hand was half clenched, the divine power was like a shield, protecting Tantai Tu Mie's defenseless soul that had just left his body. But no matter how strong Tianyu's power was, it could not protect Tantai Tu Mie's soul. The ancient laws of the balance world countered. The arrogant soul that had ruined the fate of the Holy Supremes was annihilated by the origin power of the world. Everything returned to chaos. As the Scarlet Warden, Tantai Tu Mie, a super expert who used to look down on everyone, instantly disappeared in the backlash of the laws. Of course, this was completely within his expectations. But in order to get Tianyu out of this extremely disadvantageous situation, in order to give his lord a chance to start over, the loyal Scarlet Warden was willing to use his life and soul in exchange. He succeeded. Although his soul was annihilated, the spatial crack obtained from the sacrifice of his life still existed. Carefree Sky and Joyous Sky burst into tears. Ultimate Sky roared madly. But nothing could change the fact that it had already existed. Not to mention Tantai Tu Mie, a loyal subordinate who had fought side by side for 10,000 years, even the more powerful guardian paragon of light and sailing paragon treated them equally in front of the ancient will of the balance world. Go, we will guard here and protect you. My lord, please cherish this opportunity. Carefree Sky knelt respectfully in front of Tianyu. Please leave. Joyous Sky also lowered his head and asked Tianyu to leave. We are the guardian warbeasts, we will never die, so please do not worry about us. Ultimate Sky screamed, this fate battle is not fair at all, we do not need to abide by the restrictions of the ancient rules. My lord, please leave quickly, we believe that you have the highest wisdom and supreme power, even if you do not become a Holy Supremes today, you will definitely reach that level in the future. My lord, please do not waste our good intentions, please leave quickly. Tianyu's hands trembled. How could he not know how bad the situation was now? But he was caught in the most difficult choice. On one hand, it was the selfless sacrifice of the guardian paragon of light and sailing paragon, who told him to always be confident. On the other hand, it was Tantai Tu Mie and Carefree Sky who used their lives to warn him, asking him to leave immediately, preserve his strength, and wait for a better opportunity. His current self, be it in strength or wisdom, both were close to perfection, only one step away from becoming a Holy Supremes. Should he give up now, or should he persist? Should he choose to pass through the spatial crack created by the exchange of lives and escape the Libra world, or should he continue to fight, persevere until the end, and become a Holy Supremes? Now, I have two choices in front of me. Tianyu closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and regained his confidence. He reached out a hand towards Carefree Sky, as if to touch their heads, and his voice became incomparably gentle. I know your hearts, Tantai Tu Mie even sacrificed everything for me. I also hope that his sacrifice will become more valuable, but I can't do that, because if I abandon my confidence, abandon this opportunity in front of me, and become a coward who flees at the last minute, then I will never be able to obtain the qualification to participate in this fated battle like today. That would be a true failure, and only then would everyone's sacrifice become worthless. But, Carefree Sky trembled. For all those who have sacrificed their lives to support us until today, we must persist. Tianyu made his final decision. Actually, even if you want to leave, it is impossible. Elder Fan River took out a fruit from his bosom and gnawed on it. The divine gate is closed, and the final battle has begun. Anyone can only join, and there is no possibility of escape, let alone you, the main character of the battle. Then wouldn't Tantai Tu Mie have died for nothing? Fatty Hai laughed heartily when he heard this. Aiya, so pitiful. Yi Kong sighed pretentiously. Damn it, the only one who was truly dissatisfied was Chong Chi, that joker who loved to fight. Tantai Tu Mie was originally a good opponent, but in order to let Tianyu escape, he actually sacrificed his life for nothing. This is the fate of an accomplice. Queen Vivian Lee's cold gaze swept across carefree Sky and the Divine Palace warriors, and he is just the beginning. Kill. With Sky Execution as the leader, the three Tong Tian clans erupted with fighting spirit. The one charging at the forefront was that despicable dog, Wei Tai Lang. Tianyu was furious. Just as he raised his hand, he saw Ji Zun standing in front of him. Noticing that Ji Zun was standing in front of him, her gaze was as sharp as a sword. You better not move, or else I will definitely cut off one of your arms. Tianyu, who had never been threatened in his life, was enraged. Anger erupted from his eyes, and his divine power transformed into millions of divine weapons, blasting towards Ji Zun and all the enemies in the balanced world. Destroy. Little Mother waved her hand lightly, and all the divine weapons became invisible. She waved her hand again. Create. The annihilated divine power was recreated due to the ancient laws of the balanced world. According to Little Mother's will, it turned into petals. They danced between heaven and earth. The sky was filled with petals. Pieces. On the other side, Ji Zun appeared behind Yue Yang in a flash, and stabbed him in the back like a sword. The sword of life shot out from Yue Yang's heart, carrying her killing intent and Yue Yang's blood. Supplemented by the irresistible divine power of fate, it pierced down unstoppably. Happy Sky struck with both palms, sending Carefree Sky and Ultimate Sky flying. As Ultimate Sky and Carefree Sky howled in grief, the sword of life pierced deeply into Happy Sky's forehead. Happy Sky's face didn't have the usual melancholy, nor the fear of facing death. He was smiling, calm. Turning his face, he took a deep look at Tianyu, then turned back and gently waved to his companions. Carefree Sky and Ultimate Sky, this is the result I hoped for the most. From the moment I was born, I knew my fate. However, I, who was destined to have a tragic ending, never wanted to die a worthless death. So, to be able to save you, even if it's just for a moment, is an incomparable honor. Happy Sky, don't give up. We are guardian warbeasts, we will never die. Ultimate Sky tried his best to comfort his companions, but his tears couldn't stop falling. Guardian warbeasts indeed won't die, but when they revive, it won't be the previous me. Happy Sky smiled slightly. Goodbye, Happy Sky, my brother. Carefree Sky waved goodbye to Happy Sky. Goodbye. Happy Sky's voice gradually faded. I'm really happy to have you along the way. Happy Sky, my brother, please leave first. Carefree Sky knelt down to Tianyu and bowed respectfully. Master, the enemy is strong, we also have to bid farewell. Our strength is too weak to help Master ascend to the top. We are very ashamed. Although we haven't been together for a long time, in our hearts, we all have incomparable respect for Master. You are the greatest glory of our lives. My Master, I wish you good luck. I wish you good luck. Ultimate Sky had never been so polite, because he knew that the final moment had come. Gradually sealed in the sword of life, the divine light was only a little bit of Happy Sky. It was also faintly swaying. Making his final farewell, Tianyu once again closed his eyes. He couldn't bear to see his companions and subordinates sacrifice themselves for him, but since he had chosen the path of the Holy Sovereign, he had no other choice. The spatial crack that Tantai Tu Mie created with his life sacrifice disappeared, and Happy Sky's divine light also disappeared completely. He was eternally sealed in the rune core of the Wall of Size by Ji Zun's Sword of Life and Yue Yang's divine power of destiny. If Ji Zun and Yue Yang didn't die, then Happy Sky would never be able to escape. I will kill you all, Titan Yu, I will let you all suffer the same pain as me. Temple Sovereign Tianyu decided to make Yue Yang a loner like him. Your opponent is me, Little Mother reminded him. If your central shrine had the same feeling when you slaughtered billions of other living beings, then you wouldn't have caused so much killing. The evil karma that all of you sowed previously must now be paid with your blood and lives. Only then will it be worthy of the bitter fruit that all of you have harvested. Everything that all of you have today was brought upon yourselves. Don't blame others. That's right, when you slaughtered my heaven stairway people, did you ever think of this day? Ji Zun's cold eyes looked down at the next target, Mahesvera or Ultimate Sky. Our tears have never been merciful. Today, you won't be forgiven either. Night Empress' attitude was resolute. Then let's fight to the death. Tianyu roared. In this world, the strong were respected. Who was stronger? Then he would be the winner, and he could have everything without any dispute. Tianyu raised his fist. With his super strength, Ji Zun's will would never waver. Even if he faced an opponent that was almost impossible to defeat, he was still full of confidence and insisted on fighting to the end. Come, all of you, come at me together. Let's see who can defeat me, Tianyu. Is it you who is destined to fight? Or Conquest Queen Fei Wenli? Or the self-proclaimed Holy Sovereign Titan Yu? All of you, come at me together. I, Tianyu, will show you what is called power, what is called invincibility. Chapter 1395, I want to continue fighting, no matter if it's 10 million years, 10,000 years, I will not stop fighting, I will never give up, so, the final victor, must be me. Tian Yu's conviction had already reached the limit, nothing could be changed. Stubborn, old man Fan Zhong, who had been quietly observing, shook his head and sighed, no longer looking at him, and happily nibbled on the fruit in his hand. Tian Yu resolutely rushed towards Little Mother, even though he knew that his attacks were useless, but he still persisted. No matter how many punches he threw, no matter if he hit or not, he continued, because he firmly believed that if he continued to attack, the enemy would collapse because of his own willpower and strength. You, who don't even know the power of the world and the power of life, are just a barbarian bull. Doing this is meaningless, but since this is your choice, as an opponent, I don't mind. Little Mother's slender hand moved. She used the power of life to magically create a space in the world of scales, pink, like a sea of flowers, wrapping Tian Yu within. The basic law of this sea of flowers space was the creation of life, the opposite of destruction. Before Tian Yu understood the mysteries of the power of life, he would not be able to smoothly leave this seemingly fragile world of flowers. Destruction. Tian Yu firmly believed that with the power he grasped, he could destroy everything. His divine power continued to destroy the sea of flowers. But there were even more flowers. In the midst of destruction, new life. Tian Yu was like a tireless giant who only knew how to punch, charging back and forth in the sea of flowers. Tears streamed down Zizai's face. He knew that his lord had fallen into extreme obsession, treating everything as an illusion, other than himself. He did not believe anyone, but he could not help his lord, and could not be vigilant. In that state of obsession, anything that went against his lord's will would be seen as wrong, and could not be corrected. His gaze passed by Titan Yu in front of him, looked at his companion, and found that Ultimate Sky was struggling painfully under Fei Wenli's blade. Maybe Ultimate Sky wanted to die now. But that was an extravagant hope. All those who provoked and offended the dignity of the Conquest Queen would have the same tragic ending, and Ultimate Sky was no exception. Thank you. Zizai nodded to Yue Yang. Thank you for being willing to preserve a trace of pride for me. Although we are not good friends, we can barely be said to be good enemies. Rest in peace. Your era is over. Yue Yang sighed. Goodbye. Zizai Tian turned around and glanced at Tian Yu. He retracted his teary gaze and didn't put up any resistance. His soul, under Yue Yang's destiny divine power, it shrunk into a tiny speck of light. Then, after its soul was freed, it fell into a deep slumber. Yue Yang held Mahesvara's soul in his hand and waited for Mahesvara's body to be devoured by the ancient laws of the balanced world. Only then did he gently seal this loyal enemy into the wall of size. The ultimate heavens were still struggling in pain. Without Fei Wenli's pardon, his punishment would still have to continue, although his fate of being sealed and sleeping for eternity was already set in stone. Before that, he still had to wash away his sins of killing and endure endless torture. What are you howling for? If you don't have such a big head, then don't wear such a big hat. What happened to the feeling of killing others? The mystic dragon was extremely disdainful. I've been hit by a hammer. Even his bones were broken, but he didn't even make a sound, right? This is a real man. At this time, Changqi looked at the mystic dragon with admiration. In this silly guy's heart, even if the mystic dragon was lying on the ground like mud, he was still extraordinarily handsome. Throughout the balanced world, thousands of temples were still maintaining the laws, but under the will of His Majesty and the Night Empress, their brilliance gradually faded. Princess Sissy, with the prison tiger divine sword in one hand and the sword of fate in the other, and Ming Yu Guang, who replaced Shui Wuan to use the shield of fate, continued to attack the first temple. Drunken Cat, with the halberd of fate, quickly joined in, followed by Ah Man, who was rotating the hammer of fate, and Sky La, who was waving the whip of fate. Yu Yu stood a little behind, holding the staff of fate. Fallen Beauty stood side by side with her. Her jade fingers, she wore the ring of fate in place of Shui Wuxia. She guided the entire battle. Shui Wuxia, who was holding the pearl of fate, raised her divine sense domain and began to seal the temples with her unparalleled wisdom. After waiting for a long time, Jizun realized that there wasn't much progress. She snorted softly, "Troublesome, get out of the way." Holding the seal of fate with both hands, she soared into the sky. Together with the phantom moon goddess, they instantly turned the balanced world into black and white. Ji Zun's laws overpowered everything. Rumble. The long corridor connecting the first and second temples was forcefully destroyed by Ji Zun. In Shui Wuxia's palm, light shone brightly, and the temple in front of her moved on its own. The middle door opened. Having lost the support of the heavenly chariot willpower, it couldn't defend against the attacks of the women for long. The first temple was declared broken. Princess Xianxia took the lead and charged in. She discovered that the warriors of the three sky-reaching clans who were trapped inside were fighting bitterly. With a loud roar, she raised the prison tiger divine sword high up and drew in millions of lightning bolts, forming a thunderbolt that exploded down from the sky. The warriors of the temple of gods inside were charred black from head to toe, and the fragrance of flesh wafted in the air. Great! When the warriors of the three sky-reaching clans saw this, they were wild with joy. The southern demon king and Ming Yu Guang, Yu Bing, Inan, and Lu Yi followed closely behind and rushed into the first temple. Red, who was the fastest, had already flown to the second temple. Outside, only Shui Wuan was accompanying Fourth Mother. They stood quietly outside the battlefield, waiting quietly. In their hearts, no matter if it was Yue Yang or their little mother, they both had enough confidence. The holy grimoire that Fourth Mother had acknowledged but couldn't bear to form a contract with floated lightly beside her. Seeing that things were progressing smoothly, Shui Wuxia and Princess Sissy worked together to break through the first temple. Happy smiles appeared on their little faces. Tian. With the first, the second was much easier. Due to the suppression of Her Majesty, the Night Empress, and the violent interception of the Supreme Martial Artist and the Phantom Moon Goddess, the isolated and helpless temples were divided and broken through one by one. At first, it took some effort, but in the end, the more people there were, the more power they had. Under the leadership of the Sky Execution and the Dragon Emperor, the rescued warriors of the three sky-reaching clans rushed towards the various temples that had been broken through like a flood. Kill. Chong Qi, who loved to fight, was overjoyed. Previously, he couldn't break through the temples and couldn't enter, so he could only fight against Tantai Tu Mie. Now, he could finally go on a killing spree. These guys are mine, I'll take them all. The twin-headed Yue Yang also went all out. If he didn't work hard now, when would he? Charge. The cute Qilin girl, Bing Yin, clenched her little fists and rushed forward. Many of the doors of the temples that hadn't been broken through were smashed open by her head. It had to be said, her little brain was much more useful than Princess Sissy's divine sword, especially when it was used to break through the doors. We surrender. Heaven-slaughtering god Tu Mie and his brother Tu Wan were pale with fear. Isn't it too early to say surrender now? Supreme Jin and Demon Emperor, the two big shots of the upper realm, looked at each other and smiled. The situation had already developed to this point, and you only said surrender now. Are you sure you're not joking? Heaven-slaughtering god Tu Mie and the others also had their own difficulties. Just now, in the temple, their lives were in the hands of Tian Yu. Not to mention surrender, even a slight thought would cause them to die without a burial place. If they waited until Tian Yu was trapped in the Sea of Flowers and the temple was broken, how would they dare to say surrender? Kill. Chong Qi, who loved to fight, roared like thunder and pounced forward. Surrender your mother. I even gave up my identity as an immortal beast to join this battle. I've already taken off my pants, and you're only saying this now. So stupid. Old man Fan River also had a headache when he saw this clown. Fortunately, one thing could solve another. There was a Yu brat taking care of this mess over there. Whether it was good or bad, it had nothing to do with him. Inside the Sea of Flowers, Tian Yu was still bombarding the surroundings tirelessly. His power could instantly destroy the Sea of Flowers, but in the blink of an eye, the Sea of Flowers would regenerate again. Let's end this destined battle here. There's no point in continuing. Little Mother saw that the last temple was also broken through by Shui Wuxia and Princess Sissy. The last temple warrior had already been smashed into a meat patty by Fatty Hai. She shook her head and waved her hand at the crazy Tian Yu, indicating that the battle was over. You can go. Of course, you can also stay and witness my advancement to Holy Supreme as an enemy. I hope that my suggestion can make you realize your mistake. As a seeded player, Tian Yu, you don't lack talent, and you're outstanding enough. It's just that you're too stubborn. Don't try to deceive me with flowery words. Even though the temple had been completely destroyed, Tian Yu's expression didn't change as he stood proudly. The outcome has been decided. Little mother was unwilling to continue. No, I will never admit it. Tian Yu's will was firm. All right, now, let me experience the glory of the so-called Heaven Realm's strongest. Queen Vivian Li, who was heavily injured and exhausted after a few battles, dragged her blade and swam into the sea of flowers. With just you, Tian Yu looked down on her. If she wasn't injured, this conquest queen would still be worth fearing. But now, even a child would be able to knock her down with a single punch. However, although he knew that Fei Wenli was no match for him, Tian Yu didn't mind killing one more enemy. In his eyes, only enemies who were all dead were the best enemies. Yes, with just me. Fei Wenli raised her blade with difficulty. She slashed down. Tian Yu didn't even move to block. He casually stretched out his finger, and the divine light exploded like a pillar, rumbling towards Fei Wenli's body. Fei Wenli didn't dodge either. Perhaps she didn't even have the strength to dodge. She waved the blade in her hand without dodging, as if she wanted to slash at the enemy with both of them injured. The divine light was 1,000 times faster than the blade, but the strange thing was, when the blade slashed Tian Yu's shoulder, the divine light hadn't reached Fei Wenli's face yet. Impossible. Tian Yu looked incredulously at his shoulder that was oozing with golden divine blood. He couldn't believe that he, who was wearing the divine armor with unparalleled defense, couldn't withstand the enemy's slash, and couldn't believe that his divine light couldn't hit the enemy. When he looked carefully, he found that his divine light was moving slowly in the sea of flowers, constantly destroying everything along the way, but it was blocked by the sea of flowers that was constantly growing. The speed was getting slower and slower, and in the end, it was like a snail crawling. The rumbling, powerful divine light beam hadn't reached Fei Wenli yet. It disappeared without a trace. Queen Vivian Li smiled coldly. Your power of destruction is far greater than your creation. As for eternity, as the temple's supreme elder, you don't know what true eternity is. How pitiful. After she finished speaking, she turned around and threw away the blade in her hand. So it's just a pitiful worm, I won't fight anymore. Tian Yu felt that this was the greatest shame he had ever suffered in his life. It was nothing more than this. The enemy actually stopped fighting because she looked down on him and felt that it was beneath her to fight with him. Damn it, you don't even have half of my current strength, what qualifications do you have to humiliate me? Tian Yu couldn't help but be angry. Although he tried his best to control it, the anger still erupted from his heart like a volcano. You are indeed a pitiful worm. Yue Yang appeared behind him and nodded in agreement, a pitiful worm with great power. What did you say? Tian Yu was furious. When I beat you until even your mother can't recognize you, I'll tell you. Yue Yang stretched out his hand with a smile on his face and grabbed Tian Yu's neck. This super strong enemy who had previously beaten his fallen flowers violently, like a giant crushing a little dwarf, directly lifted Tian Yu from the ground, lifted him to the highest point, and smashed him on the ground of the sea of flowers. Fists fell like rain. Fists and kicks intersected. Little Wen Li, this little girl also came up to join in the fun. The two of them worked together to completely stun Tian Yu, who had great divine power. Impossible, this is impossible, this is absolutely impossible. The opponent clearly showed less than 1/10 of his strength. The enemy is weak, I am strong, how can he suppress me? Is this a dream? Is Princess Yi Meng playing tricks? Or is this a hallucination of Yu Taiden's mother? You had a good time beating me up just now, didn't you? Now this young master will return it all to you. Yue Yang grabbed Tian Yu and beat him up unceremoniously. There's interest too. This is a dream. Tian Yu couldn't accept this reality. Ha, you can think this is a dream. This is a dream like the 10th stage of the trial grimoire, a surreal existence with great divine power, the temple's supreme Tian Yu, have you realized? You are just a pitiful worm. You have destruction, but not enough creation, and you don't have insight into true eternity. You don't even have an eternity that belongs to you. You're just a cripple, you don't have hands, you walk on one foot, yet you still want to compete for the holy supreme position. You're the one dreaming. Yue Yang violently beat up Tian Yu. Stop, there is no need to deliberately humiliate him. No matter what, he did work hard for this, don't laugh at other people's efforts. Not only him, many people have worked hard for this, no matter what, we should face it. The little mother expressed that Tian Yu was just working hard in the wrong direction. She didn't look down on him, nor did she laugh at him. On the contrary, she respected all efforts from the bottom of her heart, whether right or wrong. Tian Yu stood up. He found that his injuries had instantly recovered, and immediately, confidence returned to the bottom of his heart. This is a dream, don't you think you can shake my will? Yue Yang shrugged and spread his hands. For you, it is indeed a dream, and a nightmare that you don't dare to wake up from. Without creation, you wouldn't be able to understand the true meaning of life. Without eternity that belonged to you, no matter how much divine power you possessed, it was only given to you by others. This kind of stacked sand tower was only powerful on the surface. It would never reach the level of elegance. Keep dreaming, Tian Yu, we are even, I am no longer angry. Yue Yang, who held grudges the most in his life, suddenly found the enemy in a very sad situation. He didn't attack. Instead, he left. Because he was very black-bellied, more attacks in his life would awaken the enemy's paranoia. Even though the possibility of this happening was extremely small, he was still unwilling to take the risk. Stop. Tian Yu saw Yue Yang, who had once again stored his divine power of destiny, turned around and left like Fei Wenli. The humiliation in his heart was even greater. He would rather be pressed to the ground and beaten by the enemy like just now, than see the enemy disregard him with such contempt. Goodbye, Tian Yu, in the course of my life, you are already a passerby. Yue Yang felt that this guy was still quite strong, but he was too pitiful. He didn't know when it started, but he had always been cheated by others. Until not long ago, he was even cheated by Dongfang ruthlessly. If it was a weakling, it would be fine, but it just had to be a divine-level expert with unparalleled divine power and super high intelligence. What could people say? Mockery, or compassion overflowing with compassion? Sigh, forget it, let's just ignore him. In order not to hurt the fragile little heart of the #1 expert of the Great Light Mountain's central shrine, let's just quietly pass by. On the other side, the will of the divine mountain produced some kind of strange fluctuation, so did the Dead Sea. Even the divine gate was trembling slightly. The ancient will of the balanced world projected onto the body of the little mother, causing her divine body born from the divine light to grow infinitely. This was the official recognition of the ancient rules. The predestined confrontation was over. The winner. From this moment on, she was the future divine sovereign, the new master of the balanced world. Chapter 1396 Defeated, completely defeated. Even though Tian Yu believed that he still had the strength to continue fighting. But the truth was already in front of him. No matter how he struggled, he could not change the situation. The will of the sacred mountain, the will of the Dead Sea, and the ancient rules of the balanced world all recognized the opponent. In this grand and powerful fateful confrontation between the Holy Supremes, Little Mother was the real winner. If she did not deliberately stay, the repulsion of the balanced world would have long thrown the defeated Tian Yu out of the divine gate. Zai's departure, the self-seal of the Dead Sea Guardian, Zhang, the destruction of the divine temple, the plight of the Sea of Flowers, and the death of his subordinates, made the confident Tian Yu feel despair. Ha 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 ha, the divine temple's supreme Tian Yu could not accept this reality and laughed wildly. In order to pursue the Holy Supremes, the Great Light Mountain and the entire central shrine sacrificed everything. Everything that could be sacrificed was sacrificed. But in exchange, it was still a failure. This super ironic fate, it made Tian Yu go crazy. The ancient rules of the balanced world suppressed Tian Yu, making him unable to move. Without the will of Little Mother, the new master of the balanced world, Tian Yu would be like this for the rest of his life. Power was meaningless in front of the Holy Supreme's will. Tian Yu was going crazy, but no one had the time to care about him. Everyone was looking at Little Mother. Now, it was an important moment for her to shoulder the fate and ascend to the Holy Supremes. Old man Fan River stroked the long beard on his chin and nodded in satisfaction. He then patted Yue Yang's shoulder and smiled. Kid, do what you need to do. When I have time, I will teach you the most powerful fishing technique. I'm going fishing. From now on, the matters of Tong Tian Tower will be handed over to you. I don't know how much time I have wasted because of these troublesome matters. Yue Yang rolled his eyes. You still have the nerve to say that. If you had managed Tong Tian Tower one day, it would not be like this. Fortunately, after many twists and turns, Tong Tian Tower still had a better ending. Otherwise, as a senior, you would have committed a great sin. Who cares? I mean, fishing is a good entertainment, if you can fish and drink at the same time. Yue Yang originally wanted this old man to leave immediately, but with fourth mother here, he had to pretend to be a good child. When Fourth Mother looked over, his attitude immediately improved a lot. Farewell, Senior. Unlike Yue Yang, Fourth Mother and the others were extremely respectful towards Old Man Fan River. Even Ji Zun and Fei Wen Li were no exception. Let's go, don't miss me too much. Old Man Fan Zhang ran away, making Yue Yang's teeth itch. If it wasn't for Fourth Mother, he would count himself lucky if he didn't kick the old man half to death. Little Mama was summoning her own summoning grimoire, a holy grimoire that was as smooth as jade and a divine grimoire that shone brilliantly. The fate-bearing ceremony began, and the fate light pillar pointed straight into the sky. The warriors of the three sky-reaching clans all knelt down. Even the faces of Tian Zhu Dragon Emperor and the others were filled with sincerity. The ones who were the most excited were none other than the old fox, Zheng Wuyu, Elder Yu Hai and the others. Not only did they help Yue Yang grow and ascend to the Holy Supreme Elder realm, they were also helping the second Holy Supreme Elder to ascend to the top. Tong Tian Tower's downfall, suffering, and unpredictable future fate will all end in my hands. Little Mama floated into the sky, a solemn and extraordinary divine light shining brightly on her body. Her slender lily-white hands spread out, and millions of rays of light gathered softly within them. The three celestial flowers that revolved around her were even blossoming with a rich fragrance that seeped into one's heart and soul. I am willing to shoulder the fate of the three sky-reaching clans. In the name of the future Holy Supreme Elder, I will create beauty and happiness, destroy calamity and misfortune, and turn living beings, life and vitality into eternity. May the dead rest in peace. May the dead be immortal, and the living be eternal. Little Mama looked up at the sky. Whether in the past or in the future, it will always be the same. The energy light pillars of the two grimoires intertwined and rose upwards. Gradually, it transformed into a fate light pillar that was 12,000 meters tall. This was the fate that the three sky-reaching clans had to shoulder, including the past and future. All living beings needed to be freed from this fate energy. Because Yue Yang had previously shouldered the fate of all living beings in the Tong Tian Tower, Little Mama's current advancement conditions were more reasonable. Although it exceeded the requirements, it did not exceed them by too much. Seeing the height of this fate light pillar, Queen Vivian Li's heart relaxed a little. She did not care about her heavy injuries and immediately stretched out her hands. His Majesty was faster than her. Night Empress and Fourth Mother were also unwilling to fall behind. One by one, they stretched out their hands to shoulder the fate for Little Mama. Fatty Hai, Yi Kong, Shui Tan Lang, Prince of Tian Luo and the Li brothers had long raised their forest-like arms. The warriors of the three sky-reaching clans had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Sky Execution, Dragon Emperor and the others stood at the forefront. Old Fox, Zheng Wuyu and the others followed closely behind, raising their hands high up. Gold Sovereign and Demon Emperor looked at each other and smiled. Changqi glanced at the two-headed dragon Ji Yuang and snorted unhappily. He quickly raised his hands high up. The two-headed dragon Ji Yuang and the beautiful Queen Thousand Bones Paralysis were unwilling to be left behind. They hurriedly declared, although we are not from the Tong Tian Tower and have made mistakes before, we have already turned over a new leaf. We are also willing to join them. For the sake of the future Divine Sovereign, we are willing to sacrifice, give everything, and do our best to shoulder the fate. They had previously seen the warriors of the three sky-reaching clans shoulder the fate for Yue Yang. Now that they had such a good opportunity, how could they miss it? The shadow gods also raised their hands in surprise and joy. They were willing to sacrifice for the future Divine Sovereign. The investment they made today would be the rarest, most precious, and most worthwhile opportunity in their lives. Even if it was not unprecedented, it would still take at least tens of thousands of years or even hundreds of thousands of years for an opportunity like this to appear once in a while. Not to mention them, even the demon dragon, who was lying on the ground, raised his hands with great effort, hoping that he could help a little. Can we do it too? Shui Wuxia reached out her hand. She realized that she, who had wholeheartedly assisted Yue Yang, could also shoulder the fate for her little mother. She couldn't help but be overjoyed. Princess Sissy and the others couldn't wait any longer. They grabbed her hand and held onto Fallen Beauty on the other side. Everyone held hands. Yu Bing, Inan, Sky La and the others formed a big circle. They shouldered the fate energy together as one. Ming Yu Guang and the others joined them. Their jade-like hands gently pressed on Shui Wuxia's back. Wei Tai Lang rushed towards Fatty Hai and Yi Kong's side. It had wanted to get closer to Yue Yang just now. But before it could get close, it was almost kicked away by Yue Yang, who was carrying Jizun. You want to be a third wheel? You're courting death. Put it down. Jizun came to her senses and glared at Yue Yang. Fortunately, because the timing wasn't right, she wasn't too angry. She just raised her hand with difficulty, wanting to shoulder the fate for her little mother. The illusory moon goddess came over and winked at him. What are you waiting for? Let's do it together. Yue Yang understood. He mustered up his courage and grabbed Jizun's small hand. On the other hand, he grabbed the illusory moon goddess's soft hand. Little Wen Li wasn't tall enough. She could only hug Yue Yang's thigh. Jizun glared angrily, but under the pressure of the fate energy, she couldn't move at all. She could only let this little thief have his way for now. The holy Jizun was about to be born. Under the fate energy, the whole Tong Tian Tower was shaking. An ancient power that had been dormant, an ancient will that had never appeared before, was awakened by this special summoning. They gathered like a tide, carrying a 3,000-meter tall divine power of fate on their backs, and poured into the little mother's divine grimoire. At the same time, a powerful ancient will emerged from the Heaven Stairway World Tree. Together with the ancient will in the Time Square in the God's ruins, they formed two light dragon-like pillars that intertwined with each other. They stood in front of the little mother, also carrying the fate energy that was 3,000 meters tall. The divine mountain and the Dead Sea, these two wills, each carried 1,000 meters. The divine gate of the Tian Ping world. The sleeping ancient will was also temporarily awakened for a second in the divine light. In just 1 second, it carried the fate energy that was 1,000 meters tall. There was another one that came from outside the heaven realm. Even Yue Yang didn't know if it was the old man Fan Zhong or some other super expert like the old ghost, who carried the 500 meters tall light pillar of fate. At least you guys still have a little conscience. For the first time, Yue Yang had a good impression of old man Fan Zhong and the other seniors, but it was just a little. Come on, we can do it. Fatty Hai and the others shouted excitedly. Amidst the tide-like shouts, they, who were exhausted, gathered together and held up a height of at least 800 meters, all of which were poured into the divine grimoire. Nearly 300 meters of it was the contribution of Supreme Jin, Monster Emperor, Changqi, the Shadow Gods and the other Heaven Realm clans that had surrendered. Of course, without Jia Kang Sheng, Kai Dan Zi and the Dying Demon Dragon, it would be impossible for Supreme Jin and the others to hold up the 300-meter light pillar of fate. The 10,300-meter light pillar of fate was poured into the divine grimoire. This had already reached the basic requirement to be promoted to the Holy Jizun. And there was a little left. Fei Wenli, His Majesty, Night Empress, Fourth Mother, Shui Wuxia and Princess Sissy carried the fate energy that was poured into the little mother's other divine grimoire. Although everyone was exhausted from the previous battle, they had at least held up a height of 2,000 meters. The light pillar of fate that the little mother needed to carry. The requirement of 12,000 meters had been fully achieved. Yue Yang, Jizun, Phantom Moon Goddess and Little Wen Li did not have time to inject the fate energy into it. At the last tense moment, Yue Yang was a little anxious. How stupid. Qilin girl Bing Yin pressed a palm on Yue Yang's back. However, what Yue Yang sensed was not the power she was carrying. It was transmission, the combined sword chi from Koki no Koki. This special sword chi, which could only be sensed during dream cultivation, once again entered his body. It immediately stimulated the supreme divine power that had been suppressed in Yue Yang's body for a long time and did not know how to release it without anger. Jizun and the Phantom Moon Goddess, who were connected to his mind, instantly felt as if their bodies were on fire. There was a majestic divine power of destiny that rushed over like a mountain torrent, instantly drowning them within it. Their injuries and fatigue disappeared without a trace in an instant, Yue Yang shouted. It was more shocking than the roar of thousands of people. He raised the light pillar of fate that was unknown high and poured it into the holy grimoire that was as smooth as jade, almost bursting the holy grimoire. The divine power of fate was declared over, and the promotion to the divine sovereign was achieved. The divine light emitted by the two grimoires enveloped the entire balanced world. Fatty Hai, Yi Kong and the others all turned into light spots and were sucked into the divine grimoire. Queen Vivian Li, His Majesty, Night Empress and Fourth Mother flew into the holy grimoire along with the rainbow. Yue Yang's hands were empty. Jizun and Phantom Moon Goddess disappeared, leaving him alone, standing opposite the little mother. No, there was one more person. Tian Yu, Divine Grimoire the Paragon, Heavenly Chariot, the loser of the fated showdown, the enemy who had witnessed the birth of the Divine Paragon, was still in the Balance World, watching everything in despair, struggling madly, but to no avail. Ah, no, impossible, the divine sovereign is mine, the prophecy is not like this at all. Tian Yu's eyes were also red with jealousy. The divine mountain has not been leveled, the Dead Sea is rippling, this is not in line with the prophecy, how can you be promoted to the divine sovereign? It's fake. This is all fake, it's all a lie. I have the will of the divine sovereign, trying to deceive me. I know, it's you, Yi Meng, playing tricks, don't you dare bully me, I won't believe it. Is it that, the divine mountain has been leveled, the Dead Sea evaporated, prophecy? Yue Yang was also angry when he heard this. You still haven't given up. Fine, I'll let you completely give up. He seemed to feel that the heavenly sword goddess was hiding behind him. Her fingers lightly touched the back of his head. It was the guidance of supreme wisdom. Quietly, into the heart, Koki no Koki's fusion sword chi, under this guidance, erupted hundreds of millions of times, improving. Yue Yang felt as if his body had been opened, the seal that had been restored was pierced through by his sword, his whole body, completely activated the divine power of destiny that had been stored in his body for a long time. I want to lift the divine mountain, fill everything, I want you to be in despair. Yue Yang roared towards the sky. The giant of destiny, for the first time, under the eruption of his reason. Rise. Chapter 1397. The heavenly sword goddess's finger was like an intelligent meteor, piercing through the pitch-black night sky of the mind. Under her guidance, the power of destiny in Yue Yang's body instantly erupted like a volcano. Koki no Koki's combined sword chi converged at the same time, merging into one. Under the dual stimulation, Yue Yang felt that the power of destiny that only a divine supreme martial artist could perfectly control was in his hands, and it had reached an explosive state. The giant of destiny suddenly rose up. All living beings bowed their heads. Everything in heaven and earth, everything in the balanced world, not a single thing wasn't intimidated by it. Yue Yang raised his arms, and at the same time as the giant of destiny, he raised the sacred mountain high above his head. At this moment, the entire balanced scale world was shaking. The Dead Sea in front of Yue Yang shrieked in fear, wailing like a dead spirit of judgment. The entire sky was distorted and shattered everywhere. Go, the sad fate of Tong Tian Tower will end in my hands. In the name of the future divine supreme martial artist, I will end everything. Yue Yang angrily smashed the entire sacred mountain into the Dead Sea. This time, the heavens fell and the earth was turned upside down. After the balance was broken, two different types of power of rules collided wildly, engulfing and annihilating each other, and then combining to give birth to new rules. The chaotic power stirred up the entire space. Not only heaven and earth, but even the present, the past, and the future were all changed and renewed. Not just the balanced scale world, even the three sky-reaching clans who had entered the divine grimoire space collapsed under the impact of Yue Yang's power of destiny. All the worlds were plunged into chaos after the power of destiny interfered. Before the people who were pressed to the ground could sense more, they fainted under the pressure of this supreme power of destiny. Except for Yue Yang, who was one with the giant of destiny. And little mama, no one could stand in this balanced scale world where everything was renewed and the world was reborn. Even little mother's two grimoire worlds were turned upside down because of this powerful domination attack. Yue Yang stretched out his hands, passed through the divine grimoire and the holy grimoire, and entered the new world where little mother was being born. He gently protected the heads of the three races of the Tong Tian Tower. With the protection of the giant of destiny and Yue Yang's will, all the lives of the three races survived the great destruction dominated by destiny. Especially Shui Wuxia and Princess Sissy, who were under the protection of Yue Yang, were safe and sound. From this moment on, their fates were officially linked to Yue Yang. From then on, never parting, each of them had a unique ribbon of fate that extended from their souls and was tightly connected to him. Little Mama, Fei Wenli, Snake Empress, His Majesty, Night Empress, Fourth Mother, and Ji Zun, who was held in the arms of the Phantom Moon Goddess and had fainted because of the sudden breakthrough, were no exception. No matter what the identities of Shui Wuxia, Princess Sissy, Yu Yu, and Yu Bing were in life, there was no difference in the recognition of the law of destiny. On their foreheads, there was a unique emblem that belonged to Yue Yang, the future divine sovereign, to show and affirm their fate and future. Even little mother, who was also a future divine sovereign, had the emblem of Yue Yang on her forehead. Because her achievements and fate were closely linked to her darling. It turned out that the fate of the 3 races of the Tong Tian Tower had long been turned into nothingness in the big explosion of destruction, annihilated into nothingness. The new fate of the 3 races of the Tong Tian Tower, which was ruled by Yue Yang, was recreated from the destruction. In the name of Yue Yang, it was officially born, belonging to the law of eternity. After an unknown period of time, Little Mother completed the comprehension of the new realm. She closed the grimoire. The 3 races of the Tong Tian Tower were all moved out of the balanced world, and one by one, they woke up from their coma. What appeared in front of them was a brand new, unbelievably beautiful world, destroyed and created by Yue Yang, the divine sovereign, but under the name of another divine sovereign. This was the new balanced world that belonged to Little Mother, the throne and territory that belonged to her ascension to the divine sovereign, the place where the 3 races of the Tong Tian Tower were sacrificed and the place where they would return in the future. It's so beautiful. Is this the new world after the divine mountain flattened and the Dead Sea evaporated? It's incredible, I can't believe my eyes. So the existence of the balanced world is the world of the future divine sovereign. When the 3 races of the Tong Tian Tower woke up, they still suspected that they were in a dream. Yi Kong, Fatty Hai and the others stroked the flowers and trees around them, while the old fox, Zheng Wuyu and the others felt blissful, tears rolling down their cheeks. Now, in front of them, was a world that was 100 times more beautiful than a dream. All the malicious curses were gone. The beautiful spring breeze blew the breath of life, and the sweet spring water in the sky gave birth to all the life on earth. Grass quietly sprouted and grew, and flowers unknowingly bloomed, covering the entire mountain and plains. Trees rose from the ground one by one, forming a lush green forest. The shrubs on the periphery were full of fruits, and the fragrance wafted in all directions. Butterflies danced among the flowers, and birds chased and chirped happily on the branches. Without the divine mountain and the Dead Sea, the balanced world was now full of life. The divine palaces that were originally destroyed by the divine sovereign, Tian Yu, were rebuilt by the newly ascended divine sovereign, who was also Yue Yang's mother. With a light tap of her little hand, the divine palaces were erected. They were no longer created because of battle, nor to suppress, but to provide the life inside to use and live in. These divine palaces were no longer overbearing and oppressive. Their attributes did not change, but their appearance became more beautiful, and their divine power became gentler and more docile. Most importantly, the newly created divine palaces no longer belonged to the divine palace, Tian Yu. No, impossible, I can't accept this. The divine palace's divine sovereign, Tian Yu, did not die. The powerful him actually survived the ultimate destruction of the balanced world. However, after he woke up, he found that it was like a dream. All the effort in his life had gone down the drain, and his mind immediately lost balance. He knew that he had failed, but he still could not accept this fact. He was the most outstanding genius in the heaven realm. From the day he was born, he was recognized and chosen as the future divine sovereign's seed. Now, he had put in so much effort and sacrificed so much, but all he got in exchange was a helpless and humiliating witness. Witnessing others ascend to the divine sovereign. This is not what I, Tian Yu, want. Heavens, this is definitely not what I want. The divine palace's divine sovereign, Tian Yu, stretched out a hand towards the sky. He hoped that the heavens could bestow him a little more, just a little more, and he would be able to ascend to the divine sovereign. Why was he stingy with this last bit? Before, I always resisted saying it, but now I can say it. Sacrifice and persistence alone are useless. Queen Vivian Li used her blade to support her body from falling. She wiped away the blood stains on her face, and suddenly a charming smile bloomed. This was a kind of brilliance, like the smile of a goddess of victory. In the past, I also walked this path. From the day I was sealed, I understood that the path of conquest was not the path to the heavens. If I wanted to become a divine sovereign, I had to have a higher state of mind than sacrifice and perseverance. Only then would I be able to match the status and prestige of a divine sovereign. It is a kind of divine awareness that can bear the fate of all living beings, annihilate suffering and sin, and turn hope and happiness into eternity in one's hands, or rather, release from fate. You're quibbling, Fei Wenli. You haven't reached the divine sovereign realm. You have no right to point fingers in front of me. Tian Yu roared. Then pretend I didn't say anything. Queen Vivian Li now didn't even look at the loser Tian Yu from the corner of her eyes. Are you alright? Yue Yang mustered up his courage and carried the unconscious Ji Zun up. Enlightenment. The Ji Zun woke up, her eyes shining with the divine light of wisdom. Since she was a child, she had thoroughly comprehended this supreme realm of sublimation from the process of her mother's advancement, as well as from Yue Yang. She subconsciously muttered to herself, only by realizing oneself can one be free from everything. So that's how it is. Ah, I understand. Now I understand. Divine Sovereign Tian Yu, you are indeed a genius, but don't blame others, and don't blame your unfortunate fate. All of this is actually your own doing. His Majesty said to the stubborn Tian Yu with a slight sarcasm, you are too superstitious about power, and you unreservedly accepted the sacrifice of others, but did not make any effort in return. Mountain of Light, Central Shrine, Qihong Jizun, Light Guardian Jizun, and more people, all of them have sacrificed for you. Tian Yu, have you ever thought that even if you win in the end, even if you can be promoted to the Divine Sovereign, who else can stand up and shoulder the heavy fate for you, and become the Divine Sovereign virtue in the future? Tian Yu trembled all over. The divine light in his eyes, flickering. He was like a person who had been walking in the dark for a long time, suddenly covered by a strong light. His spirit was instantly sober, and he understood all the truth. But he clearly knew the truth. But he was unwilling to accept it, because he could no longer turn back. Tian Yu's current situation was like a prince of a great country in the world, who had lived a good life since he was a child, had all the happiness in the world, and could be said to be doted on by thousands of people. But one day, he discovered a terrible truth. It turned out that he was just a puppet exchanged by the palace struggle, and his real identity was just a poor little beggar, so he was unwilling to accept his new identity in the cruel reality. In order to keep this secret, in order to keep his status, he killed everyone, and in the end, he was left alone. The most desperate thing was, when he woke up, he found that although his status as a prince was saved, everything in his life was ruined. It was such a kind of despair. It made Tian Yu, who was once a proud son of heaven, no longer able to maintain his rationality. Tian Yu lost his mind and roared, "No, I don't accept it, it's not like this, the truth is definitely not like this, it's clear that I am more powerful, why did I fail? I am only a step away from the divine sovereign realm, just a little bit, why was it not me who won the fate duel, but someone else? No, I don't accept it, I don't accept it." You can continue to be stubborn, you can choose to continue your ideals, that is your freedom. However, it is indeed impossible to advance to the divine sovereign realm by walking alone. The divine sovereign realm cannot be obtained by abandoning everything, it must bear more, and then surpass itself in the heavy, completely controlling its own fate. This kind of great wisdom is the foundation of advancement. Little Mother glanced at Sky Chariot with slight pity in her eyes. Sky Chariot, your talent is very, very high, but you are too stubborn. Relying on your strength, you disregard everything, you insist on stepping onto this path of no return. Your destiny is actually ending in your own hands, not mere fate. I hope that one day in the future, you will be able to understand. No, I don't understand, I don't want to understand anything, those are all lies, I only know that I have already given so much, I have paid so much, why can't I get anything in return? I must get something in return, I must get enough in return. Tian Yu roared crazily, you have obtained enough power. Little Mother shook her head, you have, but those who have paid for you have not. They are willing to pave the way for me. Tian Yu was still unconvinced. You accepted their sacrifice, but did not get anything in return, you cannot bear their fate, so you cannot escape your own fate either. The Little Mother waved her hand. You can go, you can walk whatever path you want. We have different paths, so we can't work together. Don't even think about it. Tian Yu angrily unleashed his divine power. Our battle is not over yet, what I cannot obtain, I will destroy it with my own hands. You are no match for me, never have been. Little Mother, who had already ascended to the divine sovereign realm, smiled. She waved her small hand. The laws of the new world completely under her control surged with a wondrous power of the world, easily expelling Tian Yu from the Temple of Light. When the will of the heavenly chariot regained his balance, he found that he had returned to the foot of the Radiance Mountain. However, the Radiance Mountain now was no longer the residence of the central divine palace in the heaven realm, nor was it the supreme divine peak that overlooked all living beings. Instead, it was a completely collapsed ruin. Venerable heavenly chariot of the deities Templar was stunned. He had never imagined that the indestructible Great Radiance Mountain would be reduced to such a state. It was over. Everything was over. Without the protection of the Guardian of Light and the others, the Great Radiance Mountain was completely finished. In order to pursue the Divine Sovereign Realm, he destroyed everything, whether it was the people or the mountain, everything was destroyed. Although he was unwilling to accept it, the cruel reality forced Tian Yu to wake up. Whether he admitted it or not, this battle, this predestined battle, was a failure, a complete failure. Not only was it a failure, but he also paid a heavy price, so heavy that even Tian Yu, a temple sovereign with the will of a sovereign, could not bear it. If time could be turned back, Tian Yu was willing to turn back, to start all over again. He definitely would not choose this path, but everything could not be restarted. Welcome, welcome, welcome back, my dear fellow traveler. Heaven-splitting demon Venerable walked over with a smile on his face as he clapped. It's you, it's you. The Temple of God's Autarch Heavencharger recognized this unfamiliar acquaintance. It's me. Heaven-splitting demon Venerable smiled warmly. Are you mocking me? Tian Yu was extremely angry, especially when he saw Heaven-splitting demon Venerable smile. It made him feel even more humiliated. No, my dearest friend, I'm here to welcome you, because you are my best companion. Tian Yu, welcome. With you, I will no longer be lonely. Ha ha ha, do you still remember? My dear friend, on the day we first met, I already said that you would be like me in the future. Don't be in a hurry to explain, that is completely meaningless. The truth is the truth, do you understand? Back then, I was also the most outstanding genius, the seed with the most hope, but why was I unable to ascend to the Divine Sovereign Realm, and even reduced to this state? Because this is the final outcome of this path of no return. Yes, you didn't hear wrongly, we will be time travelers, wandering through the endless years, moving forward aimlessly, continuing our lives in pain and torment. Because of our great power, we will live through the endless years, and it is impossible for us to even die. This is the price and punishment for our selfishness. Throw away your power, that is a meaningless facade. I dare say that the stronger you are, the more power you control, and the more pain, boredom, and sorrow you will feel. Now, as a senior, I will enthusiastically introduce to you what we time wanderers can do. Don't be too pessimistic, my dear friend, we can still have fun. Heaven-splitting demon Venerable looked up to the sky and laughed heartily. Nonsense, I will kill you. Tian Yu couldn't accept the other party's crazy words. Haha, killing each other, even though it is useless, it is one of the pleasures of our boring yet endless lives. Heaven-splitting demon Venerable laughed crazily, tears rolling down his cheeks. What is our other pleasure? Apart from pitiful killing each other, we can also tempt others, just like how I stood in front of the proud you in the past, and tempt you onto this path of no return. Yes, that's right, it's to let our pain continue on the body of another genius, on the body of another seed. That way, our hearts will feel better. My dear friend, think about it, what a joyous thing it is. Tian Yu, who was about to kill this lunatic in front of him, suddenly stopped. We have enough time, as long as we are patient, there will definitely be more people joining us. Heaven-splitting demon Venerable laughed happily. You can also choose to be free, as long as you are lucky enough to have a disciple like your master, the Radiant Guardian Sovereign. Enough, Tian Yu roared angrily. I knew it, you are the same as me. Compared to the Radiant Guardian Sovereign, you are more stubborn, so we are the true companions. Those who choose to be free from pain are simply cowards, ha ha ha. Heaven-splitting demon Venerable laughed crazily, and extended his hand towards Tian Yu. Come, I know that in a corner of the heaven realm, a super genius has been born. He is the illegitimate child of your disciple, Ji, a genius 100 times more outstanding than your disciple, a true genius. How about we make a bet? Will he be a coward in the future, or will he be a companion like us? I will definitely not allow a coward to appear. Tian Yu clenched his teeth. Yes, this way, the fun will be bigger, and the time won't be too boring. Heaven-splitting demon Venerable laughed, and laughed until he was about to die. I am very much looking forward to that day. What kind of words will he say? Ha ha ha. Chapter 1398 The Balanced World. At the end of the Wall of Sighs, there was a world tree. On the tree, there were all kinds of beautiful world stones. It was growing slowly in the balanced world, absorbing the power of the new world, constantly enriching itself and growing upwards. At the top of the world tree, there was an extremely tiny flower fairy. She was born from nothingness. As soon as she was born, she opened her big eyes full of spirituality and flew around the world tree with a smile. From time to time, She would touch the tree trunk and those fruit-like and incomparably clean world stones. She was holding a sprinkler that came from nowhere, collecting rainwater from the sky and happily watering it. She even opened her mouth and sang to it. Seeing this, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. The tree and the stone are finally together. There is no longer any power that can separate them. Shui Wuxia sighed emotionally. So touching. Fallen Beauty burst into tears. As for little crybaby Bao, she was so moved that she couldn't stop crying. Is this really a good ending? Yue Yang, who didn't know how lucky he was, felt that it wasn't enough. However, he immediately received a round of punches. Even the most gentle sickly beauty and big sister Yu protested against his inappropriate words. Perhaps the ending between peerless Emperor Wu Shuang and the Flower Fairy wasn't the best, but at least the two of them had a result, right? Scarlet Danzi turned around and looked at his old friend, Subtraction Life, strangely. Aren't you leaving? Subtraction Life turned a deaf ear. His eyes were fixed on a cluster of flowers. In the cluster of flowers, there was a small silver spider. It peeked its head out from the petals, its small eyes timidly observing the new world. Baby, come to my hand. Subtraction Life was so touched that he wanted to cry. He stretched out his hand eagerly, but the silver spider was shocked and quickly hid back in the petals. After a long time, then it peeked its head out again. It found a guy with tears streaming down his face, who was stupidly looking at it with his hand outstretched. Come to my hand, baby. I want to bring you around the entire heaven realm. Subtraction Life stretched out his hand patiently. The silver love thread spider observed him timidly. After an unknown amount of time, it finally took a tentative step. Subtraction common people didn't move at all. He put on his most brilliant smile, but his smiling face looked uglier than crying. The silver love silk spider timidly observed as it approached. Finally, it jumped onto the life-subduing palm. A love thread, it twined around his finger. The tears of Reduce the common people dripped down in large droplets, dripping on its body. But his face was smiling. Perhaps the silver spider had gotten used to it and felt that this smile, which was uglier than crying, was suddenly not so scary. So it happily danced on his palm. Off to the side, Master Scarlet Danzi shook his head and sighed. Why am I the only one left? Boo-hoo. The emotional Fatty Hai started to cry loudly. What's wrong with you? Yi Kong was baffled. I'm so touched. Fatty Hai also squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying and looked at the wind breath seabird. Baby, we'll be together too. We'll never be separated. Go to hell. The wind breath seabird kicked this guy who would itch if he didn't get beaten up. He cried so ugly and even said such disgusting words. It was really unbearable. Yi Kong, the Li brothers and the other bad friends laughed so hard that they almost choked. Very good, this way there would be fun to watch. As for Fatty Hai's feelings, who would care? The demon dragon stood up and was reborn in the new world. The shackles on his body were all gone. He, who had completely recovered, looked up to the sky and roared, I'm resurrected again. Ha ha ha, let's see who else can trap me this time. With the support of the future Holy Lord's little brother, the demon dragon was in a good mood. He had been depressed for so long. Now that he could lift his eyebrows, he naturally wanted to vent. Chongqi also went crazy with his idol. Yes, let's go. We'll sweep through the heaven realm and make all the rankers tremble under our feet. Yue Yang hurriedly pretended that he didn't know these two idiots. He couldn't afford to lose face. Sweep, no one can stop me, not even that old fellow Supreme Dragon God. Mo Long's boss was very arrogant now. Who said that? Suddenly, a voice sounded. The demon dragon looked up and found that it was the one who threw a hammer and broke his spine outside the gate of God. He was so scared that his face turned pale. He quickly hid behind Yue Yang, his thighs trembling like a chicken in a storm. This was the Supreme Dragon God's envoy. His strength and realm did not need to be mentioned. Just that hammer alone, the demon dragon would not be able to withstand it no matter how capable he was. Therefore, the demon dragon boss had to learn to act like a grandson now. Fortunately, Yue Yang was here. As the boss, he still had to maintain his face. Otherwise, he would have knelt down long ago. Don't mention the Supreme Dragon God's name in the future. After the Supreme Dragon God's envoy accepted everyone's greetings, he glared at the demon dragon angrily, almost scaring the boss to pee in his pants. Fortunately, with the pleas of Yue Yang, Little Mama and the others, the Lord Envoy reluctantly agreed to pardon the demon dragon boss's crimes. However, he was not allowed to use the Supreme Dragon God's name again. This pardon made the demon dragon boss extremely happy. He beamed with joy and danced with joy. I won't mention it, I definitely won't mention it. I have always respected the supreme dragon god from the bottom of my heart. Seeing that everything was fine, he immediately jumped out from behind Yue Yang shamelessly and stretched out his hand. My crimes have been absolved. I have also contributed greatly to the promotion of the two holy elders. Lord Envoy, why don't you give me the Divine Hammer Award? I promise that I will work hard in the future and strive to make new contributions. Scram. The Lord Envoy was furious. If you say another word, I will skin you alive. The demon dragon quickly stuffed his hand into his mouth. So fierce. Xianxia, this guy who was not afraid of death, muttered softly. He was dissatisfied with his idol from the bottom of his heart. This was too strict. You get lost too. If I don't beat you up, I won't be able to dispel the hatred in my heart even after 10,000 years. The Lord Envoy kicked Xianxia away with his big foot. The demon dragon quickly dragged this brat away to prevent him from saying more mistakes and suffering more physical pain. Who is he? So fierce. Fatty Hai and the others quickly gathered to gossip. Under the supreme dragon god, the one with the best temper, you can just call him the calm ocean envoy. The demon dragon did not dare to speak ill of the Lord Envoy in front of him. So powerful. When Yi Kong and Fatty Hai heard this, they all had a feeling that they did not understand. Yes. Bauer also expressed her agreement. Why are you approaching us? Quickly go and act cute and see if you can get some treasures. Fatty Hai was anxious for this little girl. This was the best opportunity, how could she waste it? Bauer did not know if she could get anything good by acting cute, but she did not need to. Zhang Ying was already conferred the title of Dragon Princess by the Lord Envoy's decree on behalf of the Supreme Dragon God. She was even presented with a high-quality divine equipment, Princess Crown. Zhang Ying was extremely shocked and touched that a Father Emperor had fallen from the sky. Originally, she had not been recognized for inheriting the Supreme Dragon King's divine power. Now, not only was she recognized, she was also conferred the title of Princess. How could she not be surprised and have mixed feelings? She hugged Yue Yang tightly and cried non-stop. Yue Yang found it funny and patted her back comfortingly. Alright, this is a good thing. If you continue crying, you will become a crybaby princess. You're the crybaby. Zhang Ying's tears turned into laughter. Sisters Yao and Yu, come forward to receive the decree. The Lord Envoy took out another imperial edict. The remote feathered dragon sisters were stunned. Zhang Ying was still alright, she had inherited the supreme dragon god's divine power, but the two sisters did not have anything. By the supreme dragon god's decree, the dragon clan's orphaned Yao Yu and Yu sisters are conferred the title of Nine Heavens Dragon Lady. The Eastern Remnant clan of Tong Tian Tower is identified and recognized as the Eastern True Dragon clan. From today onwards, this will be a banishment order. All previous mistakes will be pardoned and the Nine Heavens Dragon Lady is allowed to lead her clan back. The glory of the ancestors will be restored. The envoy of the Calm Sea bestowed the two sisters with a Dragon Star badge. He officially recognized them as the Eastern clan and allowed them to lead their clan back. Woo! This time, it was the sisters' turn to cry. The envoy of the Calm Sea waved the imperial edict with both hands. At the same time, two streaks of divine power imprinted by the Supreme Dragon God were released. They turned into seven-colored divine light and enveloped Zhang Ying and Yu sisters. The princess crown was automatically worn and Zhang Ying spun in the divine light. The divine power that she had originally inherited, under the new title, increased by 1,000 times. On the other side, the sisters who were also bathed in the divine light were the same. They were just slightly inferior to Zhang Ying, the Dragon Lady Princess. When they stopped, beautiful celestial music could be faintly heard from the horizon. The entire Tian Ping world shone brightly and the clouds set each other off. It was extremely beautiful. When everyone saw this, they were all intoxicated. Who would have thought that the conferment was not just a title, but also a genuine divine persona? However, after thinking about it, how great was the Supreme Dragon God? How could his holy order be as simple as empty words? Your Highness, I have to return to reply to the imperial edict. I will take my leave first. After the envoy of the Calm Sea greeted Zhang Ying, he gracefully bid farewell to the two future supreme divine beings, Yue Yang and Little Mother. Finally, he floated away. That was close. Only when the envoy was far away did Mo Long's heart finally relax. When Yue Yang saw that the fight was over and that there was a conferment, he took advantage of everyone's happiness and hugged them one by one. Even Her Majesty, who usually kicked him away, was no exception. Her Majesty did not expect him to be so daring to be hugged in his arms. She was startled at first, but immediately reacted. She raised her fist and was about to give him a panda eye. However, on second thought, this brat was the future supreme divine being. Beating him in public was a bit embarrassing, so she desperately held it in. Her Majesty pushed him away and glared at him. However, a certain wolf was thick-skinned and hugged Night Empress who was beside him. Night Empress was overjoyed. She almost fell to the ground laughing. She hugged Yue Yang and mischievously whispered in his ear, "You hugged her once, I'll let you hug her twice. Let's see if you have the guts. My guts are bigger than the heavens." Yue Yang's biggest strength was his guts. However, this whisper that was not soft seemed to be heard by Her Majesty. Once Her Majesty was angry, it would be terrible. Before she could explode, Yue Yang was so scared that he hurriedly ran away. That silly look of his made him look especially awkward. No matter how one looked at it, he looked like a little thief who was caught by the whole nation and had nowhere to escape. Ha ha! Princess Sissy was amused. What a headache! Yu, the gentle sister, shook her head and sighed. But who asked her to have such a brother? So Bing is here. Shuang don't pull my hair. The safest place for Yue Yang was in Fourth Mother's embrace. Here, it was safer than anywhere else in the world. Look, he's still a big kid. Fourth Mother hugged Yue Yang and patted his back. Then she smiled at the little mother beside her. It's been hard on you all these years. The little mother's eyes were filled with tenderness as she looked at Yue Yang without blinking. Mom is back, call Mom. Fourth Mother gently let go of Yue Yang. Mom. Yue Yang looked around for a long time, only to find a cute girl who looked about the same age as Bing but looked more like Fourth Mother. She was smiling at him. Was she his mom? Chapter 1399, Big Ending, You're My Mother. Yue Yang was stunned for a long time before he cried out in shock, expressing that he couldn't accept it. Yes. The little mother smiled and nodded, looking extremely cute. I think you look like a younger sister. Yue Yang felt that this mother didn't look much older than Yu Bing. Not only him, even Yi Kong, Fatty Hai and the others who were peeking at them thought so, but they didn't dare to express their approval. This was the most mysterious and powerful mother in the whole of Tong Tian Tower. Furthermore, she was the future holy ruler of Tong Tian Tower. Hence, no matter what, they had to show their most respectful attitude. How can you say that? Fourth Mother was unhappy. With Yue Yang's lazy attitude, didn't it mean that she didn't educate her son well? Alright, the fearless Yu clan third young master was most afraid of Fourth Mother's anger. Call me mother. Fourth Mother gave Yue Yang a task. Call me mother, Bao cheered at the side with all her might. She led Shuang and the others to shout continuously, jumping with joy. Their ruckus increased the difficulty for Yue Yang. Originally, he could have secretly called out softly, but this way, he couldn't say a single word even after opening his mouth for a long time. Yue Yang himself was a little anxious. The little mother was very tolerant. She wasn't anxious at all, waiting with a smile on her face. The most considerate Shui Niu came to the rescue and laughed. What's so difficult about this? Watch me demonstrate it correctly. Mother, she called out affectionately and sweetly, causing the little mother to smile from ear to ear. She nodded her head and hugged Shui Niu in her arms, kissing her in satisfaction. Good girl. Mother. Tigress also called her intimately. One must know that she didn't have a biological mother since she was young and had always lacked a mother. Now that Yue Yang had a mother, she naturally wanted to share her. The little mother also gave her a big hug and buried Tigress, who was a head taller than her, into her chest. Her face was full of joy. Good girl, you are also a good child. Next year, give me a big fat grandson. I'm also a good child, I also call, mother. Bao, eyes were red, and she squeezed into her mother's arms, desperately acting like a spoiled child. Yes, you're the best. The little mother was happy. Everyone went up to her and called her mother. Even Yi Kong, Fatty Hai and the others who were far away started to call her mother. In the end, only Yue Yang was left. If it wasn't for Fourth Mother, Yue Yang would have escaped long ago, because the atmosphere was really too awkward. The Eastern Sky King and the old cunning fox hurriedly tried to save the situation. They chased away Yi Kong, Fatty Hai and the others who were watching the commotion. They then led the warriors of Tong Tian Tower to bid farewell from afar. The Shadow Clan of the Upper Realm and the Nine-Headed Goblin Clan were invited to Tong Tian Tower. Naturally, they were overjoyed. On the other side, Jin Di and the Goblin Emperor also looked at Sky Execution, Dragon Emperor and the others and smiled at each other. The friendship that they had formed through battle had unknowingly become bosom friends. They had a tacit understanding and gathered together, no longer increasing the pressure on the younger generation. As for Zheng Wuyu, Ming Ri Hao and the others who were flattering Boss Mo Long, he was even more pleased with himself at this moment, laughing loudly towards the sky from time to time. Of course, he personally acknowledged me as the boss. Moreover, if I'm not the boss, who is the boss? Back then, I, Mo Long, was the #1 expert in the Heaven Realm. Mo Long boasted proudly. Although everyone knew that he was actually the #1 expert in the Heaven Realm, it didn't stop everyone from flattering him. Yes, you're the boss, the biggest boss, the boss of the bosses. Fatty Hai and Mo Long had the most common language. Damn Fatty, go away. The wind breath seabird still refused to let this fellow come closer. Don't be angry, baby, I'll give you time. Fatty Hai quickly ran away. How did I know this kind of person? The wind breath seabird was speechless. The Serpent Queen Fei Wenli had been holding on since the beginning of the battle. At this moment, she couldn't bear it anymore and sat down on the grass. A small hand that was as white as jade reached out towards her. On top, it was a small, smiling face. Fei Wenli was stunned. She let go of the sword in her hand and held the small hand that she couldn't remember how many years ago it had been that had reached out to her but was rejected again and again. It's been so many years, but you haven't changed at all. The owner of the smiling face also nodded in agreement. Serpent Queen, you haven't changed either. Fei Wenli suddenly sighed. Fate is really a wonderful thing. Who would have thought that the course of life would become like this? Fate has always been mysterious. The owner of the smiling face gently pulled the Serpent Queen up. Moreover, there's nothing wrong with this. At least it's much livelier than before. Princess Yi Meng, who likes peace the most, also likes liveliness. A certain Serpent Queen expressed her disbelief. People change, Yi Zichen said. Smiling, she quickly glanced at Yue Yang. The lonely princess may like peace, but the even more lonely His Majesty thinks that liveliness is not bad. I don't know when it started, but there's a particularly reckless guy who likes to disturb other people's sleep. All day long, he's always messing around. Sometimes, people can't help but laugh. So I think that liveliness is also a good choice. What about you? I'm about the same as you. The Serpent Queen couldn't help but laugh when she recalled the scene of her sleeping for 10,000 years being awakened by a certain brat. In the entire Tianping world, only Yue Yang and his family were left. There were no outsiders. Yue Yang mustered up his courage again and finally decided to throw caution to the wind. He opened his mouth, wanting to call out for his mother, but when his voice reached his mouth, it was as soft as a mosquito. Mother, finally able to call out, Yue Yang's heart was finally relieved. Inan, Bing and the others who were watching all cheered. They were even happier than if they had won a great battle. Although this call was very soft, Fourth Mother was still extremely satisfied. A happy smile appeared on her face. Little Mother, who had been waiting with a smile, had her eyes redden, and tears almost fell from her eyes. She walked up and opened her arms wide, hugging both Yue Yang and Fourth Mother. Inan, Bing and Bao were all extremely touched. They all rushed forward and surrounded the three of them, hugging them tightly in the middle. Shuang and Miss Panda Niu each hugged one of Yue Yang's legs. They made funny faces at each other. Although they didn't know much, they knew that as long as they stayed by their brother's side, they wouldn't have any worries. Call me that again. Little Mother made a request. Yue Yang couldn't do anything to this little mother who buried her head in his arms and acted coquettishly. How was this a mother? She was basically a little sister. Although he wouldn't call her that again, he didn't reject the little mother who cupped his face and gave him an incomparably affectionate mother kiss. Little Mother was extremely happy. She opened her arms wide and cheered loudly. Everyone can call me mother, I like it. Yue Yang almost fell to the ground. However, the feeling of having a mother was really not bad. Although she was a mother who acted cute. Compared to Fourth Mother, Little Mother was like a big loli who hadn't grown up. Yue Yang was a little suspicious. Shouldn't Fourth Mother be the older sister? Although he was suspicious, reality was reality. Fourth Mother's respect for Little Mother was indescribable. She could tell from her serious expression that she wanted Yue Yang to call her mother. I didn't hear it clearly just now. Call me that again. Little Mother coaxed Yue Yang as if he was a little kid. She even took out 100-flower golden grain candy. Yue Yang was sweating profusely. I'm not a 3-year-old kid, okay. Mother. Bao Shuang and the others really called out. Be good. Little Mother gave them candy one by one, but her eyes were fixed on Yue Yang. Yue Yang hurriedly looked at the horizon to see if there were any gray planes appearing. He couldn't be bothered to argue with this kind of mother who went against growth and treated everyone as a child. Fourth Mother covered her mouth and laughed when she saw this, and so did Shui Niu. Hu Niu held back her laughter, and nudged Luo Hua Beauty beside her with her elbow. Draw this scene, and then hang it in the corridor that we come and go every day. I don't dare. Fallen Beauty also wanted to draw it, but she was afraid that Yue Yang would smack her butt. Coward. Tigress was exasperated that Yue Yang didn't live up to her expectations. What are you all doing? There are guests from afar. Ji Zun's voice suddenly rang out, startling everyone. Looking up, they saw an old Taoist priest in a green robe walking slowly towards them. He looked like an ordinary person without any aura of a rancor, but Fourth Mother, Night Empress, His Majesty, Ji Zun, Fei Wenli and Little Mother hurriedly greeted him respectfully. Yue Yang was stunned. The old Taoist priest walked over and stretched out his hand. Return my sword. Without waiting for Yue Yang to react, a ball of colorful light appeared in his hand. He pulled it out from the void, and a flying sword broke through the air. Between the old Taoist priest's fingers, it turned into a sword leaf and hung down from his belt. Ah, the heavenly sword goddess was taken away just like that. Yue Yang had the urge to commit suicide. He didn't want to live anymore. Without the heavenly sword goddess, how could he live anymore? Just as he was about to break down, he realized that the heavenly sword goddess was standing beside him. She led Koki no Koki and the Phoenix sisters, respectfully greeting the old Taoist priest. Her attitude was as if she had seen her own father. Yue Yang was stunned again. The heavenly sword goddess was very dissatisfied with his silly look and glared at him angrily. Koki no Koki also secretly looked over. Her small mouth opened and closed, but she didn't say anything. However, looking at the shape of her mouth, Yue Yang was sure that she said, idiot. This time, Yue Yang finally reacted. He pounced forward. He hugged the old Taoist priest's thigh and shouted, Master, you're here. Your disciple missed you so much. Even Tigress and the others couldn't stand this kind of shameless behavior. Please, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't call your master randomly, okay? Who's your master? The old Taoist priest kicked Yue Yang so hard that he tumbled. He couldn't hold back his anger when he saw this shameless brat. He didn't wait for Yue Yang to crawl up and left angrily with his hands behind his back. A white cloud floated up and stepped on it. In the blink of an eye, the old Taoist priest's body had already risen to the sky. He broke through the void and flew away. When Yue Yang saw that the old Taoist priest had flown away, he was very disappointed. Then, he saw that the heavenly sword goddess and Koki no Koki were still there. He patted his chest with lingering fear. As long as they were still there, it was fine. Even if he lost his flying sword, he couldn't use it and he didn't know how to use it. His days with the heavenly sword goddess were still passable. Just as he was rejoicing, his mother knocked his head. Stupid son, you're really stupid. With this knock, Yue Yang's mind was filled with happiness. He jumped up and shouted, Master, wait for me. He then turned around and shouted at the girls. What are you waiting for? Chase after him with me. Final thoughts. After so many years, summoning has finally been completed. Sha Fei was very grateful to everyone, especially those who persevered until the very end. Many of their names could not be mentioned here, but they will forever be remembered in his heart. In these few years, Sha Fei had been in extreme pain. Life was tormenting and suffocating. Sha Fei even had the thought of never writing or writing again. But after calming down and thinking about it, he realized that he should move forward in adversity. Perseverance was the most important thing to do. The strong should be in his heart. He was grateful to those who comforted Sha Fei when he was in pain, lonely and lost. There was a period of time when Sha Fei thought that the whole world had abandoned him. He was confused and struggled. When the suffering was over and life returned to normal, Sha Fei felt that the whole world was clear and he had found the right direction in life. He decided to regain his confidence and continue on his journey. He hoped that in the future, he would still have all of you to accompany him. The new book, Long Live the Counterattack, will be uploaded on the eve of the Mid-Autumn Festival. We will meet again then.